So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell if it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dapper Reacts number 52, Young Earth equals Flat Earth. Here, we're going to take a look at the intersection between Flat Earth and Young Earth creationism and see just how similar they are, because I've been saying it for a while. And I can tell that Vishanti is just so... Because I didn't actually tell Vishanti that's what we were doing until, what, like, 12 minutes ago?
I feel like I got bamboozled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit.
I've made a intentional effort to distance myself from freaking flat Earth.
Okay, but...
I got so tired of those insert profanity here. They don't have any new arguments.
No.
They still don't have any evidence. They still don't have any actual model or map or hypothesis that would explain anything. It's ridiculous on the face. And
oh wait, you're talking
honestly,
about Young Earth creationism or Flat Earth?
Flat Earthers.
Are you sure you're not talking
100%
about
of them.
creationists? Because they're
yeah,
also
and
in the same
it's...
boat.
Well, I was going to say,
guess
as
they have a map.
I mentioned to FTFE earlier this week, like 100% of flat earthers end up being anti-Semitic bigots, so...
Yeah, basically. Also, Eddie McCoy just gave a Dapper Dinosaur membership, and it went to Bug Archaeopteryx isn't a bird. We'll take... Wait.
Good morning, I'm on my soapbox already, thanks, Dapper.
We're not taking a drink. I am eating a piece of Carolina Reaper sausage because Pibblepunk got me some Carolina Reaper sausages, and I wanted to say thank you very much. And, in fact, Pibblepunk reached out and was like, hey, would you do this thing where you eat sausages from the Carolina Reaper sausage instead of taking drinks? And I said, I will do it in addition to taking some drinks. Mostly
so
because
just in case you guys might have been wondering if Dapper's insane.
Here we go. That's really good. It's extremely spicy. It's very, very spicy. It's also very good. So, thank you very much.
There's a lot of things you might catch me doing in my life, but one of them is not eating something named Carolina Reaper.
It's so good, though. And Pibblepunk is eating them with me because he got himself a sausage. So, now I'm going to alternate until I'm out of sausage. I'm not eating the whole sausage because that thing is like 1,000 calories or something. I'm not going to eat all of that in a single sitting. So, got a few more things that came in. We've got DM artificially selected ceratopsian wing says, that's tetrapods all the way down. Turtles.
Turtles.
Vandalia.
I like turtles.
Turtles are great. Vandalia 1998, who's been a member for 40 months, which is almost as long as it has been possible to be a member. So thank you very much, Vandalia. Says, only two of them. We aren't going after the anti-vaxxer trifecta, or are they all three? I'm sure this
I got
guy's
smoke for them too.
Let's see.
No.
The South Geek and Deathly Tunicates Part 1, who's been a member for 10 months, says, the day may come when I accept getting Bilbo again, but this is not that day. This is the
but
day
it is not this day!
But it is not this day.
This day we
like.
You have to read it like you're
I bid you hit like Tunicates of the West. Or the East. You can be Eastern Tunicates, it's fine too. And then Eddie McCoy also gets a number membership, which went to Ian Houston. This one I'm taking a sip of my gin and tonic because I'm alternating.
Yummy!
Oh, I'm sorry, Pibblepunk. She, they, please. My sincere apologies. I don't think I do that. Very, very sorry about that. Benthic Tunicate for 10 pounds says, there once was a ham who got his kicks from engaging in pseudoscience conflicts. Let's try and be terse and say the last word in reverse and call AIG a bag of huge dicks. So I will eat another piece of Carolina Reaper sausage for that one. Ooh. And Pibblepunk for $5 says, cheers, Dapper, my mouth is on fire, but it's delicious. She, they, please. And sorry about that. I have no idea why I assumed masculine pronouns. I mean, to be fair, according to my demographics, like 95% or so of my audience uses masculine pronouns. So you know. Twitch, who's been a member for 4 months, says Earth is fat with some cool glasses on.
It is.
Yes.
Thick.
Savage Perpetual Motion Lungs Cobra for $2 says AIG is a bag of sausages as spicy as butter. Take a
Yikes.
drink. Actually, in my adopted human family, I had a Quebecois maternal grandmother. And I remember one day, she was eating steamed carrots and complained that they were too spicy because of how much black pepper was on them. I was just like, oh my goodness. That is the whitest white woman thing I have ever heard in my entire life. And then, of course, Benthic Tunicate B2022, who's been a member for 10 months, says AIG are a baffling belfry of bell ends backwards. Okay, nice. I was like, it can't be Sdenlab. Let's try it backwards. Take a drink for that. Alright, guys. We're actually going to get into this. So, this is a guy named Dean. He's got a tiny little Flat Earth channel. And we're only doing one episode with this video. We're not going to keep going and try to make this into a whole series. It's like a 2-hour live stream. And this is him complaining about Big Bang and evolution. Right? And the first thing he's going to do is he's just going to show us a Kent Hovind video. So, it's kind of Inception. And the goal is, I want you to try to notice if there are similarities in the thought pattern between this flat earther and just general young earthers. Now, of course, ironically, Kent Hovind is not a flat earther or a geocentrist. He, in fact, accepts the...
I still find hilarious because the same way that he defends globe Earth is the same way that people would defend evolution, and he's just like, no, this is different, though.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, without much further ado, let's go. And I've not watched all of this video, so I'm only kind of aware of what we're getting ourselves into. But then, Benthic Tunicate B2022 gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. They went to Robert Adsit, D-Boop, let's see, Tilting Windmill, William Wildermuth, and Noram Deputz. And I think next is a drink, I think? So drink. That's 1. And a piece of sausage. Come on, 2. A little drink. 3. Now, it takes me a little time to chew the sausage, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a sausage put aside here as 4. I'm going to take another sip as 5. And I'm going to hit play while I eat the next bit of sausage, because I don't want to delay this just because I'm eating sausage. Okay, here we go.
Let's move on to
Here it goes.
Kent Hovind.
Sausage.
Kent Hovind is a creationist.
That's true.
And let's have a listen to what he...
Oh yeah, we take a drink for things that are true. I didn't go over the drinking rules. You'll figure it out. Here's a drink.
He has to say about it all. If the Big Bang Theory is true, then how? And he comes up with some fantastic reasons as to why it's all lies.
Kent Hovind coming up with fantastic reasons. Skeletor, over 9,000, who's been a member for 14 months, is at the annual level, says AIG or a bag of steamed carrots, too spicy. Take a bite of something that is not too spicy, or sorry, not as unspicy as carrots. These are quite, I'm currently sweating. These are really good, but yeah, I'm currently sweating.
If the Big Bang Theory is true, then I would like to know what exploded and where did it come from and where did the energy come from and where did the space come from for the matter to expand
Nothing
into?
exploded.
Mm-hmm.
Where did it come from? Well, it's all of things that we consider matter and energy. So, what?
Also,
the space
there's
was...
not a place for it to come from because it's literally all of space.
It's literally all of space. So, space-time happened at the Big Bang.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
But also...
Why is yellow? This is a ridiculous question.
Yeah, it is a why is yellow thing. And here's another thing. You don't need to know the answer to all of the origin questions in order to describe an event, right? So, an example might be, and I've used this example before, right? Let's say where you and I are in a car, and I mean, Vishanti, but you can also picture any of yourselves with me in a car, a special dinosaur car that's big enough to fit me. You know, Vishanti had to deal with that when I visited. You did.
Not easy to find a rental for a Ceratosaurus.
Not at all.
Saying.
Venteli 1998 says, "Do you need to start an eating counter too?" Nah, I'm just using the drinking counter. So yeah, we're driving down an icy road. Obviously not where either of us live because we don't have icy roads.
I mean, near is a relative thing because there's ice, like Big Bear.
Yeah, I could drive a couple hours and get to places where it's icy. Actually, last time I was at the Grand Canyon, we basically were snowed out the first day.
Yeah, and it was snowing the first time I went to the Grand Canyon. So,
actually, some of the people who were there, they got a train ride to the Grand Canyon, and the train was like 2 hours late because the tracks were just coated in ice. So, yeah. Anyway, so you come across a car. It just crashed into a tree, skidded off the road. Driver's side door is open. There's a bit of, broken glass here and there. Maybe some red fluid that, I don't want to talk about too much because it's YouTube. And and Vishanti says, "Okay, I think this car skidded off the road because of the ice, careened off the road into the tree, and then the person who was in it got out, and maybe they called an ambulance or something." And I'm like, "Okay, I hear you. But where did the car get manufactured?" And then Vishanti's like, "I have no fucking clue." I dropped the F-bomb already. At which point I'm like, well, then I guess your explanation just doesn't make any sense. How can we say how this car got here unless you know where the car was manufactured? That's basically what Kent is doing, right? We can't say anything about the history of the universe unless we know where the original energy came from, as if that even necessarily makes sense as a question. Doesn't matter. We don't need to know the exact origin of everything in order to say, we can trace these events back to this point, and we know what happened from that point on. Farther back? Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't mean that I don't know what happened from that point on. Now we got 10...
Just be like, well, I'm lactose intolerant, and Kent would be like, yeah, but where is the farm that cow is located?
Exactly. Yeah. Reggio's just get to 10 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. They went to Quiet Fern, Carol Kinzer, there we go, Old Man Writer, Liz D, 3Can Sam, Alien Bird, Aunt Jer, Lord of Osseous. Osseous. Sorry, Lord of Osseous. I'm sorry about that. I was just trying to put in like Latin words for bone of reasons. Star Hunter and Bloody Hatter. Let's see. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to separate out 5 pieces of sausage. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I've only got 2 left. Because again, I'm not trying to make this into like 3 meals in a row. All right, so I'm going to add. Well, we're going to take the 5 drinks first. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and gin and tonic is good. All right, here we go. I'm going to eat a sausage, but we're going to hit play. There we go. 1 sausage.
And where did the organization come from, and where did the information come from? There's a whole host of questions that are a whole lot harder for you to answer than...
And also not relevant, but okay, Kent.
I'm not even sure what... I'm less sure what information means in this context than I normally am. Like,
whatever he wants it to mean.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. I think I got some sausage spice into my nose.
Tesla Ranger says that there was a milk bottler that put the names of the cows on the bottle, and someone complained that all the names were feminine. Duh.
Look, if you're milking your bull, you might not be getting what you think you are. Don't do that. Also, geez, bulls are gigantic. I would be scared to just approach a bull. These things are so huge.
Dear.
Man. I remember the first time I saw...
Also, remember
the third sausage.
The human ivory.
Say that again?
Lasso.
No.
The human ivory company.
Oh, yeah. Yes, you did. Now I do.
So pretentious.
Okay. Ooh, now that is spicy. Here we go.
In the beginning, God. Where's information come from? Man is...
I'm not even sure what you mean by information yet. I'm taking a drink because, just like all creationists, You never even define what that means. So there's a drink. And here's another piece of sausage, because I still have 2 more to go.
Christopher Sanford says, what a time to join the stream, milking a bull. Not gonna ask.
I remember the first time I found out just how big they were, compared to even just regular, just a cow, and I was like, holy crap, those animals.
This universe is not just random molecules circulating around. I mean, it carries information.
Actually, at certain scales, it is basically just random molecules floating around.
It actually is. Yeah, I was going to say, what does he think dust is? Or gas?
Like, the thing is, humans are extremely localized to an extremely ordered segment of an otherwise extremely chaotic and messy universe. The vast majority of the universe is almost nothing like this, right? Humans live on the surface of a tiny rock coated in a tiny membrane of air that they need to survive. If you were randomly teleported to virtually anywhere in the universe, you would be best described as dying in the middle of a few random atoms floating around. That is the vast majority of the universe. My Infinite Journey says, AIG is a oven full of Kents. I'll take a drink for that one. DM artificially selected Ceratopsian wing for $2 says, a wizard does it, sure does answer a lot of questions, Turtle. Yeah, Ken Hovind does seem to treat the inconsistencies in his idea about reality the same way I treat the inconsistencies in my D&D game world I crafted. I'm like, don't worry about it, a god or a wizard did it. Just shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Savage Perpetual Motion Lungs Cobra for $5 says, Ken just learned the word information 3 days before this was recorded from IDers and thinks it's an argument against everything. Yes. All right. Here's that last sausage that I owed from the 10 membership chats.
Just like a book is so much more than ink on a paper, it carries information. And the DNA is more than just chemicals.
See, the thing is, I can mathematically quantify the information in a book, right? Because I can do things like figure out the amount of entropy in a book. Informational entropy, it's a real thing. I can figure out like the Shannon information content of a book. I can do statistical analyses on that. In fact, if you want an example of people taking a book that no one can read and doing a whole bunch of statistical analyses to see what kind of information might be in there.
Voynich manuscripts.
That is exactly where I was going. You know me far, far too well. Stop living inside my brain.
No.
Okay. Just
cheaper
remember.
Than rent. Cheaper than rent here.
Just remember, I have a psychic connection, so I know exactly when you're about to lay down in bed, so I can tell you not to. So you can look at memes.
Okay, context for the audience. So I have Discord on my phone, and sometimes like I'll scroll notifications before I fall asleep. Occasionally I go to bed early.
Mm-hmm.
And I laid down and immediately saw a notification in Discord that he was about to send me like a meme or a video or something. And the message said, don't go to sleep or whatever. And I'm like, how did you like?
Because I know. I'm definitely in Arizona, though. I'm not hiding outside your window. Philipunk, half dog, half canine for $5. Said, already finished all the sausage I had prepared for this. My sinuses have never been clearer. Nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not quite as good at sinus clearing as wasabi is, but ooh, goodness, yeah, it'll clear you right out. My nose is currently a little bit runny. All right.
Why don't you go catch it?
So where did this information come from? Where did the energy come from?
So
where
quiet?
Did the matter itself come from? And you gripe
Flur's
about I believe
remember?
By faith in the beginning God. I know.
Okay.
I admit I don't understand that.
Here's the thing, though. I don't care that you believe he in the beginning God. I have absolutely no quarrel with that. I just don't care. It's the denial of the things that we do know, right? Because if you want to put God into the gap of how did these energy come to be that was there at the beginning of the Big Bang, sure, I don't care. I don't have any evidence that it wasn't God. And you know what? While I don't think the God of the Gaps is a great argument, if you have some philosophical argument like, just pick one, and you think that is intellectually satisfying for you, and that's where you want to put the origin of the universe, great. That's where a lot of people land who are theists. Not my place to argue with you, because you're not denying science that. And that's really what I care about. But that's not what Kent does. Kent goes from, well, I think God created the universe, to I think God created the universe explicitly in the way I think he did, based on my weirdly selective version of a literal interpretation of Genesis. Because remember, if Kent wanted to actually be a literalist about Genesis, he'd be doing what Dean is doing, in that he'd be a flat earther.
Yep.
Because the Genesis narrative clearly describes a flat earth being created with a dome above it to keep the water of the sky out from the land. So,
yep.
Yeah. Renee, who's been a member for 3 months and is at the amniote level, says, a fun wasabi fact. It's a limited export from Japan, so most wasabi in the US is horseradish. I'm allergic to horseradish. Yes, I did know that, actually. And I've had real wasabi when I was in Japan, and it's better, but I don't think it's enough better that I would be willing to pay the extra cost to get real wasabi in the United States, right? Because it's still very much like horseradish. It's a very similar flavor profile. And unlike Vishanti here, I eat horseradish voluntarily. It's my... Yeah. Vishanti only eats it around Passover.
Yeah. Dr. Don Hogg, xenobiologist at large. So, were you there when I created fanfic?
Nice.
Speaking
of which, I will say I did recently watch The Marvels, and the girl who plays Kamala Khan was a huge Miss Marvel fan, and I thought that Miss Marvel was by far the best part of that movie. I was never paying more attention than when she had stuff to do, because it's not like I didn't think the other main characters were like uninteresting, but she was just so clearly enthusiastic about it, and not just the character, but you could tell like no, this is someone who was a big fan first. And then she got to play the character, and she's super happy to be there. That's accurate. Yeah.
She texted Kevin Feige to correct him when Multiverse of Madness came out.
Nice.
I think it was Multiverse of Madness. It was either that or Spider-Man, where Mysterio was talking about the 616 universe.
Oh, yeah, and he was stopped making
And she texted, rage texted him, was like, that's the comic universe! That's not the cinematic universe! You're wrong! And I'm like, I like this kid.
Yeah.
There's hope for humanity.
Plus, the family stuff with her family is always fun, because, yeah. Anyway.
But you believe hundreds of things by faith. You don't even understand that you're believing by faith. You think matter is either eternal or can create itself.
Well, first, I know that energy can turn into matter. I don't think that energy can necessarily create itself. I don't have a position on that. See, what Kent isn't okay with is people just saying, oh, and therefore, for that reason, not abandoning the things that they do know that he disagrees with. Ken thinks basically either your options are you need to have an answer for literally every possible question, or I'm right.
Bingo!
Someone already got a bingo?
That was early.
Wow.
Dang.
That was early.
That was quick. Well, it's Kent, so...
Well, yeah.
What's the two choices? How did matter get here? The world is here. Where did the matter come from? Did it just happen by itself, or is it all just imaginary? We're not really here at all. You're faced with the...
As if those are the only two options.
Yeah. Maybe it is self-existing. Maybe it's eternal. Or, well, energy, really. Maybe there is a process that generates energy. Maybe a god did it. I don't know. And as far as science is concerned, it doesn't matter to most of the things that I talk about in science in the first place. And when it does, the answer remains, I don't know. And that's okay, because it doesn't change the things I do know. Vandalian 1998 for $4.99 says, if we really have so many missing links in evolution, then why hasn't Ganondorf taken over Earth yet? Checkmate, YEC. Good question. Yeah, where is Ganondorf, huh, Kent? Also, I've got
Explain that.
2 more pieces of sausage, and my mouth is starting to actually recover from the previous pieces.
Of we're not really here, this is all just our imagination, or it had a beginning,
just my
or matter is eternal, which is both of the second two options are in violation of the obvious laws of thermodynamics.
What part of the laws of thermodynamics makes eternal matter impossible? Because I'm really curious about that. Because I don't remember.
Reasons.
Yeah, the first law of thermodynamics says that energy can't be created or destroyed, but that doesn't mean it couldn't have always existed. That's a possibility, Kent. That's perfectly in line. And none of the other laws of thermodynamics change that. Because even the second law of thermodynamics says that in an isolated system, entropy cannot decrease, but it can stay the same. And if it stays the same for a very long time, at just minimum, then that's just what it's doing. That's not even a violation of the second law. Also, the second law is inherently temporal, and if the Big Bang is in fact the start of time, which it might be, then we don't have to worry about the second law anyway, because there was no before in which entropy could have increased through time that didn't exist.
Matter.
It's an isolated system, Dr. Don Hogg. Closed systems can have decreases in entropy by the introduction of new energy, because remember, there's open, closed, and isolated. Open, matter and energy can enter the system. Closed, only energy can enter the system. Isolated, neither matter nor energy can enter the system. So, you can define a closed system with decreasing entropy.
It doesn't create itself. And everything degrades over time, so either it had to be...
That is not what the second law means. I'm just going to take a sausage piece for that, I think. Then Pibblepunk, half dog, half canine, says, AIG is a bag of coccolithophores. And Boneworm says, virtual particles make Kent cry. And I will take a drink for the bag of coccolithophores in just a second after I eat this sausage. Okay, here's your drink.
Beginning, or it didn't. If it had a beginning, then what was before the beginning? I mean, there's so many thousands of things you
Please
take
read
by
that
faith.
chat, please.
Savage, perpetual motion lungs, Cobra. It was elucidated in the prestigious research paper, Bro, Trust Me, 2005.
I say in the beginning...
See, Kent doesn't understand it. There's a very good chance that the Big Bang is the beginning of time, and therefore asking what happened before is like asking, what happens if you get to the North Pole and then go more north? It's like, you can't. It's not how it works.
Divide by 0.
Yeah. It's like, these aren't things that make any sense.
God, and you say, well, this matter somehow either was always here or created itself, and then this matter somehow became alive, and then this first living thing learned how to reproduce.
Notice how this is supposed to be about the Big Bang, and now he's talking... He's got a weird accent, and I'm pretty sure it's artificial.
Learned how to reproduce.
And then it learned how to make something other than its kind. I mean, even though nobody...
There's no such thing as a kind, Kent. That's not a thing that ever happens, because there's no such thing as a kind. And until you can come up with a good definition for a kind, it's not going to matter. And yes, this is my stealth way to get Vishanti in talking about Kent Hovind.
Nobody's ever seen that.
I mean, I'm available most Tuesday nights.
Well, that's true, now you are. Well, we'll have to talk to Bent and see if he wants to have a guest on.
Anytime you need me to sit in and fill in, I'm totally down.
Nobody's ever seen a dog produce a non-dog, or...
Oh my god, just take a drink. That's how it works, Kent. The thing is, I know it's not just Kent, right? I once stayed up until like 3 a.m. from like a 9 p.m. call with Cindy Lincoln, trying to explain how monophyly works. And it just didn't work. For some reason, there are some creationists who just fundamentally cannot escape this like weird platonic idea of what animals are. And that's not how evolution works. Evolution does not have this idea that there's this platonic ideal to which animals can belong, and by their participation in it, we recognize the kind of animal that they are. Evolution is a branching tree, and you can't escape the lower branches, other than just by extinction. So, when the first basal carnivorans in that thing that sounds like a family but is actually just an evolutionary grade, the Miacids, diverged into felliform and caniform carnivores, they didn't stop being carnivorans. And when those first caniform carnivorans diverged into the first canids, they didn't stop being caniform. And when dogs diverged, or well, canids diverged into borophagine dogs and canine dogs, none of them stopped being canids. And when the canine dogs diverged into wolves and jackals and coyotes and dholes and tanukis and red foxes and maned wolves and short-eared dogs and crab-eating foxes and all these other things, they didn't stop being canines. It also, in case anyone's wondering, the fox-dog hybrid was in fact a crab-eating fox and a dog, which are actually not real foxes, and they are much more closely related to the genus Canis than they are to the genus Vulpes. So before anyone's like, all those times you said that there were no dog-wolf hybrids, no, I wasn't wrong. Because I was very specifically talking about Vulpes. That's why I always showed things like red foxes on screen when I talked about it. Pillowpunk, half dog, half canine, for $5 says, This is argumentation on the level of the male dog evolves and then it has to go find a female dog that's also evolved at the same time. Yeah, that's a Ray Comfort thing. It's like if the male dog evolves and has to go find a female dog, it's like no Ray.
And also does that. Where do you find a wife?
Yeah. Pro tip to all the creationists: humans are basically the only animal that has an institution like marriage. So, yeah, and also they're far from the most monogamous animals. Many animals are much more monogamous. Humans are at best serially monogamous, kind of like those birds who find a new mate every year. Humans aren't quite that serially monogamous, but yeah, if you look at human behavior, they're clearly not just typically single mate for life. That's not how humans operate.
You mentioned about, the dog fact that a wolf and a fox and a dog coming from a common ancestor off Noah's Ark in only 4,400 years. For heaven's sake.
You have way less than 4,400 years. Because we know from things like hieroglyphic inscriptions, or even worse, the inscriptions at Göbekli Tepe, that those animals had diverged almost immediately after your initial flood idea. You have like 300 years max to get full modern diversity, and then suddenly, for some reason, your hyperevolution just stops. Because we have not had that kind of exponential explosion in diversity for the preceding, almost 4,000 years. Arter Ams, who's been a member for 7 months, says, how did bipedal dinosaurs like Psittacosaurus evolve into quadrupedal dinosaurs like Protoceratops? Wouldn't the intermediates be really clumsy? So there's this intermediate stage, which actually Psittacosaurus might well have been in, called facultative quadrupedal locomotion, where basically, sometimes, especially when you're moving slowly, you can put your front legs to the ground if they're low enough, and that gives you additional stability so that you can do things like take a load off of your hind legs when you're doing stuff like just standing there and eating.
Kangaroos do that occasionally.
Yeah.
They'll crawl around.
Yeah, they'll do the thing where like they put their hands down and then they'll inch forward with their legs and they'll push their front legs forward a bit. And so what happens is, as you get larger, the circumstances in which it's a good idea for you to basically go put weight on your front legs becomes more and more common. And so you get to the point where, like, really you only move bipedally when you're running, because that's, you get an additional help from all that motion to your balance. Kind of like how a bike can stay upright when it's moving fast. But if you're trying to pedal it like, 0.2 kilometers per hour, suddenly, it's wobbly. Similar idea. It's not the exact same physical phenomenon, obviously, but it's a similar idea. And then eventually you just get so big that bipedal locomotion just becomes impossible. So really, there isn't an awkward stage in between those two things, because you're, until very late into the process of becoming quadrupedal, bipedal locomotion remains an option for when it's necessary. And then by the time it becomes impossible, you're probably big enough that you're not worried about running anymore. You're more into a fighting and intimidating sort of thing, because you really want to mess with an adult Triceratops. Vishanti, remember when we went to the museum and you saw how big those were?
I'm not messing with a baby Triceratops. Keep me away from the ceratopsians, is all I'm saying. Like, I respect, but they're gargantuan.
They are. They're basically the size of elephant. T.D. Lane, member for 23 months, and at the tetrapod level says, but have you considered magic with an AIG as a bag of dicks? No, I had not considered that, but I'm going to take a piece of this sausage and eat.
Yeah, the thing about ceratopsian skulls is, if anything, Jurassic Park undersold the size of them, because, oh my goodness, just the skulls were as tall as me, and I'm like 5'5", 5'6", whatever, so...
Although, ironically, they oversold the size of the dung
Velociraptor?
pile. Well, no, I was going to say the dung pile of a Triceratops. Because that thing was way too tall.
Come on! I don't think my theory is that silly at all. So...
I'm just going to take a drink for that from Kent.
Okay.
So I'm officially out of sausage. So I'm not out of sausage, but like, guys, I'm not going to eat an entire sausage. I will die.
But you're a dinosaur.
It's so salty. It's so salty.
Drink water.
I'm drinking gin.
Is there ice in it?
There was.
Okay, so...
DM artificially selected ceratopsian wing for $2 says, all quadrupedal dinosaurs evolved from bipedal dinosaurs, if I recall correctly. Yes, that is correct. Yeah, the ancestral condition for dinosaurs is bipedal. In fact, the first sauropodomorphs were bipedal. We actually have lots of fossils. Like if you look at Plateosaurus, that is basically a basal sauropod. It's bipedal. It may have done the facultative quadrupedal locomotion thing, where like it sometimes went down on all fours, but it was habitually a biped.
Answer to your question is still the same. I believe in the beginning God. I do take that by faith. Here's the major difference. Major difference that I don't think you're going to understand. I admit mine is a religion. They do not admit theirs is a religion.
Primarily because it's not, yeah. Like, there's no particular rituals. There's no particular set of beliefs. There's no particular community that regards itself as a community based on these rituals or beliefs. There's no profane sacred distinction. There are no particular meeting places for meetings. There's no liturgical elements. And to be a religion, you gotta have some of these things, right? You don't need to have all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have any of them, then you're not a religion in any meaningful way, right? So, like, there are religions out there that don't really have a necessary set of beliefs. But they have practices and a community, and they have rituals. Then there are other groups that barely have any rituals, but they have a common set of beliefs in the community.
Hang on.
Okay.
Fear, Bro et al. Monger, says Darwin is the Pope of Science. Hail Darwin, and Dawkins is his prophet.
Ooh. Yes, can we get a better prophet?
The et al., the Bro et al. Made me laugh really hard. Oh, double bingo.
Maybe we don't need a better prophet, because if you remember, some of the more controversial things that Dawkins has talked about involving kids and priests, I mean, I'll just say, the other guy about whom people say there is no God but, and so is his prophet, Muhammad, did consummate a marriage with a 9-year-old. So, maybe they're more similar than we were thinking. Actually, I told someone that, I was actually asked by a Muslim some of the reasons I wasn't a Muslim. I was actually at my apartment back in Massachusetts. And I was like, well, this is part of my concerns. He was like, no, she was 16. So I'm like, okay, hold on. And I come back with like a hadith collection. And I'm like, this is al-Bukhari. Mm-hmm. This is one of the most authentic, generally considered hadith collections. Yeah, I know. Like, all right. So I turn to like number 4,000 or whatever. I'm like, how's this isnad? The chain of narrators. He's like, yeah, no, that's a pretty decent isnad. What does it say? Oh, he wrote the marriage contract at 6 and consummated the marriage at 9. I didn't make up this hadith.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't forge this isnad. It's not me. It's kind of like when people were like, oh, those genocides. It's fine. It's like, no, it's not. I'm glad they didn't happen at all. I'm glad you're not advocating for it. But it's still a moral problem in the Bible that you should grapple with. I'm not going to say you're a bad person for, having this as your holy text, but you need to grapple with these things. Pillowpunk, half dog, half canine. $5 says, I will never not be mad at Jurassic Park for calling Deinonychus a velociraptor. Yeah, no, it's fair. It's really disappointing, especially since it's not just that they were too big, because, they're way too big for Deinonychus, too. Deinonychus was bigger than Velociraptor, but they weren't nearly as big as the Velociraptors in Jurassic Park. But when you look at the skull profile, it's clearly based on Deinonychus. And the reason for this was that basically when Michael Crichton was writing the book, he was under the impression, which was being floated at the time, that Deinonychus might actually just be a later stage of life of Velociraptor. They might actually just be the same animal. Turns out that's not true. But he also liked the name Velociraptor better. So because he thought that they were the same animal, he just inflated them and used the better name. Because, let's be honest.
Velociraptor is a name.
It's a sweet name. Heather Kuhn's paradigms don't equal MT Ascension Kuhn for $5. Says, I'm pretty sure Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe are older than why he thinks the Earth is. Yeah, but they're just going to push those dates forward, right? They're going to be like, those are the first structures that were ever built after the flood. Right after.
And that's going to make their diversity problem even worse, because the art shows already speciated animals. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, so did they hyper-evolve on the Ark? Did they hyper-evolve 5 minutes after the flood? Like, what?
Yep. I think Japheth went and built Karahan Tepe, and Shem built Göbekli Tepe. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Yep. And you might be thinking, well, there were 3 sons. Yeah, well, there's another Tepe we haven't found yet.
Ran real fast down to Egypt and built the pyramids real quick.
Yeah, all by himself, with the help of the aliens.
By himself. The giants, remember, it was the
Oh, right, the giants who survived the flood somehow.
Mhm.
Don't worry about it.
They want you to think what they believe is science, and all of you should
'Cause it
pay
is.
for their religion to be taught in this
No.
university.
I'm just going to take a drink.
And that's the situation we have today, and that's unfortunate. There have always been situations where the majority taught something. I mean, in the Soviet Union 15 years ago, if you stood up
Oh
and
my
said,
God,
"Hey, kids, I believe in
commies."
communism, I think capitalism is a better system," you would be in Siberia
mean,
if you
look.
survived.
I think by this point, living in a late stage capitalistic society, at least the paper version of communism, a lot better than just the freaking dystopia that we're living in.
Well, the paper version of a lot of things is better than what we're doing right now. The paper version of what we're doing right now is better than what we're doing right now. So, like, that doesn't help me a whole lot, because I'm like, oh, hey, this looks great on paper. And it's like, okay, but when it was actually done, it was just like famines and mass murder.
Yeah, the thing is, like, a lot of people, I'm gonna paraphrase Simon Whistler here, is like, a lot of people call themselves capitalists, and they don't have any capital, and I'm like, friend, you're not a capitalist. You're not. You need capital. It's in the name.
Okay, but here's my counter argument. If you have a 401k, you have capital, because that is an investment in the stock market, which is indeed
Ugh.
partial ownership in capital.
Never gonna let go that they got us away from pensions and pushed 401ks. Such BS.
I mean, fair enough, but I will say that, yeah, if you are at all involved in the stock market and you own any capital in there, you have any money invested in the stock market, congratulations, you are now a capitalist. You might not like it, might not be your goal, but you are in fact now an owner of the means of production. Means of production that you are not currently using to produce things yourself personally.
Oof.
Yeah.
So, I guess the way that we seize the means of production is by every stock.
I mean, technically,
All
yeah,
of them.
if you bought every single stock as some kind of collective, and then you just turn them all into, like, workers' collectives, I mean, technically,
Now we're talking.
under, like, the legal system would still be basically the same as what this is, but practically, you just turned every single company into a workers' collective. And I mean, it's not like workers' collectives are illegal.
I'm gonna temporarily christen this reverse oligarchy.
Okay. All right. All right. Now we all have our marching orders, everyone. All right, everyone, let's pool all of our money together. Oh, wait.
And go buy every stock.
Then we won't have even enough money to buy out a single Fortune 500 company.
I know.
Oops. Oops.
Ow.
Maybe we could get
This
GameStop.
is foiled again.
And here in
I
every
really hope
university,
people understand that this is all very tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Those-
if you and I are on here, most of what we're going to say is either a deep cut to some obscure nerdy thing, or it's going to be cheap.
Listen, I have to
tongue-in-cheek.
put that out there because sometimes people may not get, like, tone indicators or may not, like, follow that. Like, this is very tongue-in-cheek. We're not actually advocating reverse oligarchy. It's just...
Well, I mean, the thing is, if you say, like, advocate for just mass adoption of, like, everyone buying all the stocks and, like, turning those companies into, you know, workers' collectives, there's nothing illegal about that. It's a perfectly valid thing to do if you can get the money together. There's no crime involved as far as I know.
Step 1, print money.
Yeah.
Step 2,
that might be the problem.
buy all stocks.
But yeah, like,
Question mark. Step 4, profit.
possibly. I mean, there are workers' collectives in the United States right now.
Pibble punk, you're reading my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, Pillowpunk, half dog, half canine says, let's do socialism via market caveat. I mean, it's not technically impossible. It's just extremely unlikely.
if you
There
stood
you
up
go.
in your classroom and said,
40
I don't
chess.
believe this evolution theory is true, I think it's pretty obvious there must have been a designer to this system, you would be in intellectual Siberia. You would lose your job.
No, you won't.
Intellectual Siberia. That's a hell of a statement.
I mean, the thing is, it's also just not true, right? Like, look at Fred Hoyle. He remained an employed astrophysicist / astronomer for basically his entire life. And he was an anti-evolutionist. He was against the Big Bang. But the thing is that the longer that the science of evolution and the Big Bang have gone on, the more and more support they've gotten. And at this point, if you are, you know, an anti-evolution guy, then you're basically in the same boat that Dean would be in you know, like the cartography department, which I don't even think exists anymore, but whatever. If there were a cartography department and Dean showed up and was like, I would like to teach here. And they're like, okay, well, you know, what are your qualifications? And he's like, I've done years of flat earth research. They'd be like, okay, bye. Because come on, there's...
Oh my god.
Okay.
Okay.
Off journey with
Fear Bro et al. Monger says, not that. I meant to read the tweet above it. Can you tell that my brain is offline today? Because then I just called them tweets.
Do you need more coffee during the break?
Apparently.
Yeah.
Okay, above what I was reading is Don Hogg, Joseph Smith, step 1, print money. Step 2, step 3, profit. But like, PH.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's clever.
Yeah, that's another one of those weird things. Another one of those prophets that every once in a while I hear people try to defend things, and I'm like, bro, come on, what are you doing? It's like, oh no, he didn't have all these crazy underage wives. It's like, I mean, not according to all of his friends. That's according to them, he definitely did. That's why, like when he died, his wife went off to found her own Mormonism without all the hookers and blackjack. Yeah.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah. Actually, one of my longtime supporters was a member of the branch of LDS that she formed after his death that was like in opposition to the Brigham Young branch. And they've cooled it on a whole lot of the Mormon distinctives, and now most people would find them hard to distinguish from like just regular old Protestants. They barely ever read the Book of Mormon. They reject all the post-Book of Mormon scriptures that were produced that the mainline LDS accept. Yeah. They barely talk about Joseph Smith. They basically turn themselves back into just regular old Protestants, but who keep Books of Mormon around.
All right.
Yeah.
How about that?
It has happened to hundreds of teachers, just simply for standing up and say, look, I think the evidence is here, folks. There must have been a designer.
Except they don't say, well, I think the evidence is here. Let me present it. They just start quoting Bible verses and preaching.
You're not allowed to preach in schools. I mean, unless it's a private religious school, which, I mean, okay, then fine.
Or unless it's student-led.
Yeah. And actually, I went to a Catholic school for high school, and I was not actually preached at. I mean, there was a theology class. It was a Catholic theology class, right? But no one in that school was like, so, Dapper, when are you going to take your confirmation classes at the Catholic Church and, join the one true church? They were just like, oh, hey, you're not Catholic? Okay. You still have to take the theology class, but like, okay. You're going to have to sit in the pew when we go to mass as a school. But just do that. Don't disrupt anything. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm fine with that. So yeah, I went to a Catholic high school. Wasn't Catholic. In fact, I believe the second largest religious affiliation in that school was Buddhist. Because that school had a way better academic track record than the public schools in the area. And all of the Cambodian people who were wealthy enough sent their kids there.
I was going to say, what?
So the school was like 20% Cambodian. So yeah, it was... There were a lot of non-Catholics who weren't even Christian. And yeah, they just sat in the classes that were the theology classes, and they sat around in mass and whatever. So yeah, even in the religious classes, you're not necessarily going to be preached at. I wasn't preached at. Even when there was a nun teaching my class. She was there to teach math. She was not there to try to turn me into a good Catholic boy. It just wasn't her goal. She was like, I'm here for math. Here's a triangle. Let's talk about triangles.
It's a triangle.
Hey, when I was in high school, I knew what the internal angles of a triangle added up to. Unlike most flat earthers. Michael Nate, remember, for 3 months at the Amniote level says, we should all get together and buy out workers' collectives to manufacture bags to keep AIG in. Oh, I'll take a drink. Right, here we go.
Oh, that interior angles of a triangle thing, it's
so sad.
I ask you to explain how computers came to be. But
Let
you
me get out
cannot
my
use
triangle
man as your
calculator.
answer. I only want a purely naturalistic explanation for the origin of computers. Purely naturalistic.
Hey, here we go again with the creationist using examples of inanimate objects
That can't reproduce.
that can't reproduce.
And here's the
'cause they're
thing,
not
right?
alive.
I can go watch a few different things, right? I can watch the creation of, say, a new dog right from the beginning, right? I can go to a dog breeder place and I can say, all right, I want to see how dog breeding works, and I want to keep track of the particular... I was going to use the actual term, but I feel like YouTube might not like it. The particular dam of this litter, I'm going to keep watching her the whole time after the mating, and I'm going to watch the give birth. Now there's a new dog. I can watch the whole process. And I don't see any obvious time where God shows up and is like, okay, now I will design this dog and knit it together in its mother's womb. Like, that doesn't really seem to obviously happen in any identifiable way.
Well, you see, that only specifically applies to humans.
Oh,
clearly.
well, I could also
He doesn't knit dogs together.
I could also at least hypothetically watch that whole process happen with humans. It might be a little awkward for some of it, but you know. Also, yeah, it's pretty clear to most humans how human reproduction works, because most of them have either done all the things required for it, or have just gone through it themselves, or have a fairly good understanding of the process from, you know.
I don't know, man. I still see people, mostly young teenagers, and like,
Bad anatomy.
Can I get pregnant from just touching? And it's like, but of course, sex education is one of those evil things. So their school won't.
Here's a fun thing. The better the sex education is, the lower the STD rate among the youth, and the lower the pregnancy rate among the youth is. So hey, Republicans, if you want to reduce the number of people who want abortions, one of the best things you could do would be to fund very good sex education.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but I can also watch new computers being made. And there is, at every step of the way, some intelligent creature comes by and does something. At every single step of the way, observably. Which isn't what happens when new dogs come about. Which means I already know that there's a fundamental difference in the way dogs are made versus computers. And I know that comparing them is dumb. And I don't need to think about, like, how complex computers are versus dogs. All I need to think back to is the only time anyone has ever reported computers coming about, it's with humans making them, and you can go watch humans make computers. Every time dogs have ever been reported coming about, it was from non-human intervention in the strictest sense, right? Like, sure, with breeding, you're selecting which two, but, like, you're not sitting there and physically inserting one dog genome into a dog ova and then growing it in a test tube while you staple together dog parts onto the embryo. That's not how dogs work. Philip, half dog, half canine for $2 says, wait, does Ken think computers are magic? He probably does. I mean, he certainly doesn't understand how they work. And to be fair, I only barely kind of understand how some of it works. So.
How did these molecules get together? How did this data get together? How did these plastic molecules come together and the different silicone chips? How did it happen? Your answer has to lie in the computer. I've already eliminated the only obvious answer to the problem at the beginning by my definition. They're trying to eliminate the only answer.
We literally watch it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you can just see it.
I built my PC from parts that had already been manufactured by someone else.
Probably slaves in China.
I tried to avoid that wherever possible, but it's a lot more difficult than you think.
Yeah, it's... Even if you buy parts that were assembled in a place that doesn't use slave labor, chances are that those parts were assembled from parts that were made in a place that does. Good luck at getting the slave labor completely out of your supply chain.
The only logical answer to the question by their definition of science. They want to define science as things that we can observe and test and demonstrate in the natural world. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my
Show me
gosh.
God in that context.
Well, then that eliminates both evolution and creation. Both are unobserved.
Evolution is
so
routinely
dumb.
observed.
I was not prepared for Kent Hovind levels of dumb today.
Well, just wait till he's done, because he's only got, like, 20 seconds left of Kent Hovind, and then the Flat Earther is going to talk.
And then we're going to get to deal with freaking flurfs.
Mm-hmm.
See anything change. We don't see anything.
Look, today was supposed to be the most painful show I've done. That's why we started with Carolina Reaper sausages. Okay, I and Pibblepunk started with Carolina Reaper sausages. You are a coward who doesn't like spicy food. Also, I'm pretty sure it's a pork sausage anyway, so I wouldn't ask you to eat those.
I don't care for spicy food.
Yeah. And like
on certain levels.
Even if I were to ask you to do that, I would have to try to find something that was like, I don't know, like a turkey sausage or something. Because I'm not going to ask you to eat a pork sausage.
I mean, there's soy riso.
Yeah, but is there Carolina Reaper soy riso?
Possibly.
Maybe. All right, this is everyone's mission, should you choose to accept it. Find a non-pork-based Carolina Reaper cured meat product. Go.
created from nothing. Here's the problem.
It's a tall
Both
order, but
creation and
you know,
evolution
hey,
are
I think
religious.
the vegans might have it locked down.
You know, pork is the most widely consumed meat worldwide. It is absurd how much pork humans eat. It is absolutely
I mean,
crazy.
it's also absurdly easy to like farm pigs. So
Yeah, they just turn trash right into meat. So
yeah,
Jack DeHart for £2 says, "How I know if a girl is pregnant? How baby formed? Oh, I love
how
that.
baby farm.
I love that tweet. It was a tweet, right? Or was it a
the old
post on Tumblr or
memes.
something? Oh my goodness.
The old memes. By the way, they're saying I went last a day in India. I like Indian food. I like Indian food.
Reflavored for white people.
No, I like Indian food.
Okay.
I just like when I eat something that's spicy, I still need to be able to taste the food. I don't want my tongue to just be on fire. Like I need to actually be able to taste flavors.
Cognitive trifurcation says that they found Carolina Reaper beef jerky. Go. Next time we might have to get Vishanti some Carolina Reaper beef jerky that she can have while I
quite like beef jerky, so yeah. I'm listening.
Hey,
I'm listening.
Send Vishanti the link, and maybe she can add it to her wish list. Which should be in the description, I'm hoping, as I check desperately. Yes, it is in the description. Yay!
I admit mine's a religion. They don't admit theirs is a religion, and all of us are paying for their religion to be taught in the school system, and I, for one, resent that.
Aw,
so my answer is still the same. God
did
it.
His feelings are hurt.
Exactly. Now, the only problem I have with Kent Hovind is he believes that
I think the only insult greater than having to listen to Kent Hovind and a flurf is that the flurf is from the north.
I didn't get a
That's
nice...
a very specific level of hate.
Should I have found a Cockney flurf instead? Would that have made it better?
At least they don't talk exclusively through their nasal cavity. That would be great.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, I mean, he's a flurf. Did you really expect him to just not be from the north?
I mean, there's flurfs that aren't from the north. There's the freaking, what's his name, from Australia, which is even doubly ironic.
Okay, but this is specifically an English flurf. All right. Donald Jaramillo for $2 says, when Kent says silicone chip, take a drink. Yeah. Yeah, Kent does not know the difference between silicone and silicon.
Symbol in the 10 to the minus 17 to a vacuum.
The 10 to negative 17 torr vacuum. Remember when JM was asked if that was a positive or a negative pressure, and he said it was a negative pressure?
Exponents.
Yep. Hey, Flurfs, if you're watching, pro tip. Putting a negative exponent just means that you add like extra zeros onto the top of the number, but after the decimal point, it doesn't ever go negative. It just gets smaller and smaller and closer to 0. But like it approaches 0 like asymptotically, which you don't know what that means, but it just means it never actually gets to 0, and it never certainly ever crosses that line. That's a limit that is reached as you approach infinitely negative exponents. The negative has to be on the big number, not the tiny number up top. If the number is on the big one, then it might be negative, and also might not, right? Like 2 squared is just negative 2 squared is just 4, but negative 2 cubed, negative 8. Now, look, why am I trying to explain this to the Flurs? They're not going to understand any of this.
Yeah, they're not going to listen. They don't care about math.
Even if they cared, they couldn't possibly understand it.
I mean, you've got people who think that 8 inches per mile squared is an accurate way to talk about like global scales.
Yeah, no.
Okay, buddy.
That only works over a few miles, and it doesn't work.
Let's just draw a parabola and pretend that's a circle. Okay, sure.
Yep. For what it's actually used for, which is dip, like vertical dip over short distances, it's not bad. It's good enough.
Oh, you missed a super chat.
I did not miss it. I was about to say it, but then you said something.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You might be sorry. Fate to Great, watching Bigfoot go for $5 says, is Dapper proof that capsaicin insensitivity is a derived trait in avian dinosaurs, or sensitivity is derived in Ceratosaurus? That's a great question, and I don't have any other non-avian dinosaurs to test this on. But if you find any, let me know. So, yeah, because that is a great question, and I do not know how it works that way. Let's see. Radchenko says,
Our song is telling me that this person is Level Earth Observer. Is this literally Level Earth Observer? Or is this someone else who is very, very, very close to him?
It very well could be. Vadim Radchenko says, explain -3 to the -3rd to a Flur. Oh, goodness, no.
Good job.
All right, but we're going to take
Yeah.
a quick break because it is the top of the hour. So I'm going to put us on the intermission where you can hear...
and by the way, when you told me that, like, I interrupted you reading a super chat, that wasn't the one I was talking about.
Oh, Off Journey. I did miss that one for $2. Say, with their 5th super chat, allegedly, because I also know Strawberry Vein has been having all of their super chats listed as their 5th, which is suspicious. So it's a little sus. I can tell you that right now, Strawberry. I'm kidding. Off Journey for $2 says, the giants survived the flood because they're tall. Yes, obviously. They were tall enough to just stand on the mountains, and therefore they were above the flood. Well, they had to get to the mountains, right? They couldn't stand in the valleys. But yeah, once you're on the mountain, they're good.
I don't know how long they can hold their breath. I'm not going to tell them.
I mean, maybe they have an extra set of lungs, just like they have an extra set of teeth.
Yeah.
Why not, right?
Obviously.
They're basically just Klingons at that point.
But Eames says that's not Leo. Okay, good. They all have the same exact talking points.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a quick intermission, and in the meantime, you can enjoy the musical stylings of one Beethoven. When we get back, we're going to have almost an entire hour of Flurf talking instead of Kent talking, because I couldn't do an entire 2 hours of Flurf talking. I mean, come on. Bye. So anyway, that's why it's important to remember that in zombie situations, you don't have to reload a machete.
That's very true. It's also a little too melee for my liking, but hey, do you. You do you.
Sometimes you run out of ammo. It's good to have it as a backup. Oh, hey, we're back, everybody.
That's true.
Welcome back. I want to say thank you because
hey, I was gonna say, as someone that's gotten their head sliced in half by like a parking
by Maggie, right?
That's also an option if you can't find a machete.
Yes, in case you guys are wondering, the thing that you might know Vishanti from is in fact The Walking Dead, where she was a zombie.
They would not know that. You would have to be extremely obsessive about details of walkers in that. So.
I mean, I was just trying to give you a Troy McClure moment, but if you don't want it, I guess you don't have to have it.
Hi, I'm Troy McClure, and you might recognize me as one of 100 zombies on set that day, or...
Hi, I'm Vishanti. You might remember me from such things as some episode of The Walking Dead, where I was zombie number 432.
No, there was the prison where the prison got overtaken by walkers in season 4, and Glenn had to fight them off in riot gear. I was in that, but there was literally over 100 of us on set that day. You're not gonna find me unless you go screenshot by screenshot.
All right. Now we did
the second time there was a very small amount of us, and I got killed on camera. But that was later in the season. So.
We got 5 gifted memberships from Savage Perpetual Motion Lungs Cobra. They went to Todd Ferguson, Flurfman Supervisor, Frenetic Pony, DSO Pack, Kenneth, and Sophie Fishbach. There we go. We'll have 5 drinks for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. TD says, yes, but have you considered flamethrower turrets a la Factorio? Here's the thing, man. I don't have an oil well in my yard that I can use to fuel flame turrets.
Going pasta mining.
Well, it works in Factorio, because in Factorio I have easy access to oil. That's not the case in my real life. Anyway, all right, we are back. Now, right before we get right back into the this Dean video here, I want to say thank you so much to all my supporters, all my patrons, my channel members, anyone who just comes in here and super chats or gives a super thanks or a super sticker. You guys are the reason the channel even exists. And if you're currently someone who is not helping financially, but you're interested in doing so, we have a couple of really great ways to do that. One is the Patreon, and the other one is the channel memberships. Patreon starts at $1 a month. Channel memberships start at $1.99 a month. On Patreon, you can go annual for a 15% discount on the total price. So, instead of like $12 for an entire year, it's like just over $10 for the entire year if you go annual on it. There's no annual thing for the YouTube memberships, but they do give you the green name, the fancy badge, and the ability to use the various channel emojis that we have. You can get access to, at this point, I think it's somewhere close to 6 months worth of just early access content. Like, I'm pretty sure the video that I just put out last week isn't going to be airing until like July or August or something publicly. So yeah, there's hours and hours of content that you can watch early before anyone else. And then you can laugh at the people who complain in the comments, why is this video only 2 days old and there's already 4-month-old comments? You can laugh at those people.
Join the Patreon or channel member.
Yeah. But also I get it.
And
it is
since
confusing.
people are asking, Pixar didn't happen. If you're in the Discord for Dapper Dinosaur, you will receive a bonus. I'm going to get the screenshots now.
Nice. All right. If a monthly or an annual thing isn't your deal, but you still want to help out, I have a wish list. Bent has a wish list, and Vishanti has a wish list, all listed in the description. You can get something from there. And there's also a merch store. If you want to get some Dapper Dinosaur merch, we have both my regular avatar as well as the Mecha Dapper avatar. You can get t-shirts, mugs, blankets, pillows, phone cases, stickers, all sorts of stuff. And if none of that's right, can't afford it, and if you can't afford it, please don't give me any money. But if you can't afford it, or you're just not interested in helping out financially, one of the things everyone can do, whether you're helping financially or not, is hit like and share these videos, because that helps the channel out immensely. February has been a little bit of a slow growth month, and I would like to somehow turn that around, and one of the best ways for that is sharing. So just share it to your whatever social media, right? On your Instagram feed or your Facebook wall or your shitter news feed or whatever you call it. Do all of them. All right, here we go. Here's more Dean.
And he's wrong about that. But on creationism and that we're created by the Lord God Almighty is correct.
I'm just going to point out that that just goes to show you the level of fact-checking and intellectual prowess that we're working with here. Is this guy's an unironic Kent Hovind fan who is so bad at being a creationist that even the vast majority of creationists have basically disowned him and every single one of his distinctive arguments.
Let's move on to the next video.
Oh, great.
We're going to look at
we're gonna get past
Benjamin.
I'll talk about flat Earth. That's nonsense. We would have rings like Saturn.
Did I
Where's
just
all the
crash
dust?
it?
Where's all the debris? Where's everything? That all just
It
disappeared.
did.
That makes no sense at all. Next up, the sun
man.
is 400 times bigger.
Well, that kind of blows. That's okay. I'll get it back. We're going to get it back. Don't worry about that.
Okay. Okay.
So, did you find those pictures?
Yeah, they're in the Discord.
Nice.
Yep.
Did
They actually put me on the count for that Talking Dead post show for one of them, and they called me the I saw the sign zombie.
Okay.
Thought that was pretty amazing.
All right, here we go. Let me share this back with you. Let me take you off for a second so that everyone
at the end of the day,
behind the scenes.
it's an extras gig, but it is the coolest extras gig in the business.
Well, I mean, yeah, you get to be a zombie. That's cool.
Yeah.
When I turn off your camera, you appear on top of an ashramlok.
Yay!
Yeah. All right, here we go.
As is fitting.
We're being put under right now, guys. It's disgusting what they're doing to us.
That's always one of the things with flat earthers that I'm always curious about, which is, what is the thing that you think they're doing to us? And the answer is usually like, well, they're trying to convince us of the globe Earth in order to get us away from God. And then I look around at all the theists that exist on this planet, and I'm like, well, they're doing a shit job if that's the goal. Like, I have trouble imagining how they could be doing a worse job. It's like when people are like, oh yeah, they're trying to get rid of all the humans with the vaccinations. It's a depopulation campaign. And then I look around at 8 billion people. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
This might be the least competent conspiracy that's ever existed.
Denying us our true heritage and our true knowledge is the sin of all sins in my eyes.
What heritage do you think he means? Like, what should he have inherited on the basis of a flat earth that he didn't already inherit? Has he got like a house on the other side of the ice wall that they just won't tell him about, but his great-grandpappy owned? Like, what?
So let's move on to the next big lie.
Uh-oh.
Evolution.
That was already the same
Okay,
kind of lie,
sure.
but whatever.
Is a lie.
Oh.
Because without the Big Bang lie, you can't have the evolution lie.
I'm going to take a drink because that's not true at all. Because, okay, here's one thing. Vishanti.
Yeah.
You know how it was that I believe the Belgian Jesuit astronomer really first came up with the Big Bang and who spread that around?
Mm-hmm.
The Maître. Do you think he was before or after Darwin?
After.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, did the theory of evolution depend on the theory of the Big Bang that had not even been proposed when Darwin was around? No, not even a little bit. In fact,
Well, you see, because of reasons, it now does depend.
Yes. It was after evolution was proposed and widely accepted. Then came the Big Bang, and suddenly they were like, oh, this is what evolution has been missing the whole time. That's not what actually happened. Any way, shape, or isn't the thing. And it's always weird to me because, like, clearly what the problem is with both Flurfs and young Earth creationists, and this is where I want to point out just how similar they are, is that they just hate science on the whole unless it already agrees with their pre-selected dogmatic conclusions. And that is what they both have in common. It's the reason I compare them all the time. And you can just see it right now, right? He's just complaining that he doesn't like it and therefore it's a lie. And he does the same thing where he'll say, like, this isn't science. And the only reason he thinks that is because he thinks it's wrong, even though being wrong isn't one of the criteria for being part of science. Because lots of things that were part of science were wrong, and they were still parts of science. Like the ether theory for the propagation of light. That was part of science back when that was still the dominant explanation for how light propagates. It isn't part of science anymore, but it sure was, and it was wrong. And that's okay, because science is about becoming less wrong through time, through the hard work of scientists. Science is not going to get you to some deep ultimate truth anytime soon, if ever. But what it will do is will weed out the worst ideas that correspond to reality the least well. And it will preserve the ones that correlate to reality better and allow you to more effectively interact with reality in predictable ways. So Pibblefunk says, well, it's true if the Big Bang never happened, we'd never have evolved. I disagree. Because there are a lot of other options. Like, if the universe were a steady state, like people thought before the Big Bang, Einstein was a big fan of steady state universe. That's why he introduced a cosmological constant in order to prevent the universe from having to either be expanding or contracting. Because he thought it was a steady state universe. And that's a possibility, and that would not preclude evolution in any way. I mean, it turns out it's no longer really a possibility because we found out that, cosmic inflation or expansion are things. So we don't have that option open to us anymore. But yeah, it didn't contradict evolution in any way. Also, if, the universe were just created like 4 or 5 billion years ago, that doesn't negate evolution in any way either. That is also a possibility. Hugh Richard, who's been a member for 12 months, is at the Tetrapod level, says, the Flurf isn't that northern, just a pelagic tunicate. Dead. I mean, he does seem like I think if pelagic tunicates could talk, they would talk with a northern English accent. That's just how I imagine
They
them.
would absolutely not. They would not.
What do you think they would have the C pronunciation?
I mean, I doubt it, but they wouldn't sound like they're northern.
I think
Like, big ups to all the Liverpool, Scouts, Birmingham, and Manchester, but nah. Yeah.
That's why I say the lies that they came up with, it's very intelligent and very well thought out. But then again, Satan is very intelligent.
Oh, do you know him? Are you buddies? Do you get together and play pool on the weekends? How do you know, Dean? I love that the people who seem to know the most about Satan are always the people who are like accusing other people of being Satanists. It's like, it's odd that you seem to be so intimately familiar with Satan, buddy. You sure you're not the one who's all about Satan?
And immortal. And that's who's behind all of this. Make no mistake about it. So let's have a look at evolution.
Buddy, the only thing you're behind is your chin, like 2 days after it enters a room.
He does have quite the prominent chin.
Quote, let me get my glasses on. My eyesight's getting worse.
Oh, it's because your eyes were designed by an all-perfect, all-knowing creator who designed them to be perfect. That's why you need eyeglasses, my dude.
Quote, evolution is the change in the heritable characteristics of biological populations over successive generations. Mm-hmm. Evolution occurs when evolutionary processes such as natural...
Also, I don't know what this soundscape is that he's got going, but I actually kind of like... It's... On its own, I might like it, but it's so weirdly incongruous because he's such an angry man, and yet there's this like spa music in the background, and it's like, why is this here?
The old guy, what's the name of the old man from Up? He looks like a bald version of that right now.
Oh yeah, what is that guy's name?
Wide of a face.
Well, I mean, I just assume that's like the weird cartoony style. That's why he has the weird football-shaped head. You think this guy would tie a bunch of helium balloons to his house just in case it worked?
I mean, if he loved his dead wife enough.
Dean, that's how you could check to see if the Earth is flat. Just tie enough helium balloons to your house that it lifts off, and you can get a picture of the flat Earth. You won't even have to worry.
Thank you, Jillian.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Carl Fredrickson.
Yeah, you won't even have to worry about going into space because there is no space. There's a dome. Dude, we just solved it.
Goddamn dome.
Selection and genetic drift act on genetic variation, resulting in certain characteristics becoming more or less common within a population over successive generations.
Do you think he's processing any of these words as he's reading them?
So that's always one of the things that's hard for me to figure out, right? Because he can read them fluently. He's actually like much better at reading aloud than Kent Hovind is. If Kent Hovind were reading this, he would have stumbled over almost every one of these words. So on the one hand, like, he clearly has heard these words before. He must have some kind of vague idea as to what they mean, but I don't know what's going to go on in his head as he reads them in this order, and like what level of information is that imparting to him? Is he parsing these sentences in any way that makes sense? Like, I really don't know.
He's saying that he looks like the old man from Courage the Cowardly Dog, which then Jillian immediately comes back with Eustace Bag.
Does Jillian just know all of the cartoon characters?
Well, Jillian also has raised little humans.
Oh, okay, that's a good point.
Probably watched these, so...
Yeah, okay. I mean, I watched Up.
I'm never gonna forgive that movie for making me bawl like an just ugly
Yeah,
ball.
They did like the best love story in like the last
First
50
10
years,
minutes.
and 10 minutes. I was like, geez, man. This is
the whiplash going from, oh, this is so sweet to just,
yeah, it was.
oh, why you gotta do me like that? Why you gotta destroy me?
Like, oh, it's a cute kid cartoon about an old man who flies away in a balloon house, and you're like, oh my god.
And Russell with his little backpack and his little pins, like, oh no, ah!
Yeah, 10 minutes in, you're like, oh, I need to take a break and go cry for a little bit and come back.
I know, like freaking.
Savage Perpetual Emotion Lungs Cobra for $2 says, well, we know for sure he isn't a Neanderthal. Yeah, well, that's true. He definitely does not have the Neanderthal face. He's got way too much of a chin for that.
Has given rise to biodiversity at every level of biological organisation. The theory of evolution by natural selection was conceived independently by Charles Darwin, who we're going to look at, and Alfred Russel Wallace, all Freemasons.
By the way, there is no indication anywhere that either of those two men are Freemasons that I'm aware of. He's just saying that people he doesn't like are Freemasons, and I'm taking a drink. It's like when Flurps are like, all the astronauts are Freemasons, and it's like,
okay,
are you sure? Like, you'll point to this one and be like, hey, this astronaut is a devout Roman Catholic, and they're not allowed to join the Freemasons. Don't worry about it. It's like, oh, hey, how about all these Russian cosmonauts who brought up Eastern Orthodox icons to set up an entire icon wall on the space station? And you know what other church doesn't let you join the Freemasons? Yeah, the Orthodox Church. If you join the Freemasons as an Orthodox Christian, and they find out, they kick you out. And like, you can't come back until after you leave the Freemasons. So, like, are all of these people just actually abandoning the religion that they're obviously practicing just to go join a social club for people who like to drink a lot and then sometimes give to charity and then drive around in tiny little cars with funny hats? I mean,
that's
maybe.
only the Shriners. That's not every Freemason.
Well, yeah, I know. That's why I said sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's mostly the drinking.
Although, if my brother does get a cool-looking fez, I'll let you know and send a picture.
Nice. Will you get a funny little car?
I hope so.
That would be cool.
That would be great.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's definitely some advantages to joining the Freemasons. There's the drinking, and occasionally there's fezzes involved. Fezzes are cool. It's like bow ties.
In the mid-19th century, there's an explanation
Aren't
for
you
why
wearing, like, a long tie, though? You're not wearing a bow tie.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that things that I'm not wearing aren't cool. I'm not wearing a fez either.
Okay.
Just because it's
I would
cool
like to see a dapper avatar that wears a fez and a bow tie.
All right, well, I'll tell you what.
Chat, make it happen.
Chat, yeah, make it happen. If we can get to the Dapper Does a New Avatar number, which it'll be a bit of a struggle today, but if we can, then we can make that a Dapper in a fez and a bow tie. In fact, we can just go like full on, like, what was that? 11th Doctor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do I can do some more 11th Doctor-y stuff. Like
Heck yeah.
I don't know, like put on a coat or something, maybe? That would be a lot of work. Maybe. We'll see.
Listen, if you went through, like, a series of one-off costumes, even just if it's for, like, your avatar during a stream, it doesn't even have to be, like, for one of your full videos, but you just pick all the doctors and do them in sequence. That would be great, because I would love to see you with,
all the way from William Hartnell?
That has the huge scarf.
I have one of those in real life.
Nice! I would also love to see you in my favorite Doctor's leather jacket.
Yes,
Christopher Eccleston. He's great.
No, what I'm actually going to do...
This tells you that I don't hate everybody that's from the North, by the way.
Yes. Well, what I would actually do for the Christopher Eccleston Doctor is I would just dress up like the King of the Dark Elves.
Are adapted to their physical and biological environments. The theory was first set out in detail in Darwin's book On the Origin of Species. Evolution by natural selection is established by observable facts.
Says, Old Russian for Freemason is Farmason. In case you wonder, but I don't recall if the membership is a reason to get an anathema. Oh, okay.
I don't think you're getting it. Yeah. Well, look. Last time I talked about it to a clergyman of the Eastern Orthodox Church, which has happened once. Well, no, I've talked more to clergymen in the Eastern Orthodox Church more than once. I've talked about Freemasonry only once. I was informed that members of the Eastern Orthodox Church would not be admitted to communion if they were known to be Freemasons. However, I don't believe there was a formal, like, you're out forever process. Like if you were, say, a committed heretic, which, by the way, according to the Eastern Orthodox Church, you can't be a heretic unless you were at least at some point Eastern Orthodox. So, yeah.
Interesting.
I had that conversation once with Maddie. She
Makes
was
sense.
like, I feel like a bunch of these churches would consider me a heretic. It's like, nope, because you were never part of the church anyway. Because you have to be a part of the church and then go do some other thing and try to get them to do that other thing, and then you can be a heretic. If you're just some rando who's not even part of the church, they don't particularly care what you're doing. I mean, unless you're attacking them or something. Don't do that. They'll care about that. That's why there's all that animosity in some places between the Catholics and the Orthodox, because the Catholics did a whole lot of attacking and sacking and pillaging and stealing churches. Yep. I'm also still not happy with the Russian Orthodox Church keeping all those Catholic churches that they were handed by the Soviet Union back when the Soviets were like, we don't want to have to deal with more than one church. So, hey, all you Eastern Catholics, you're part of the Russian Orthodox Church now. And Russian Orthodox Church, these are your parishes now. And then when the Soviet Union fell and the Catholics were like, hey, can we have these back? And the Orthodox Church was just like, no.
Nah.
They're ours now.
Lol.
Okay.
They just replied with lol.
Yeah.
Living organisms. 1. More offspring are often produced than can possibly survive. 2. Traits vary among...
I find it interesting that he's not so far really disagreeing. Like, which...
Because he doesn't understand what he's reading.
True.
He just thinks that by reading it, it'll be self-evidently wrong.
He's just paused to be like, and they were Freemasons on the basis of that he doesn't like them.
Vibes.
Yeah. They just felt really Freemasony.
Among individuals with respect to their morphology, physiology, and behavior. 3. Different traits confer different rates of survival and reproduction. And 4, traits can be passed from generation to generation. Hereditability of fitness. In success...
It's heritability, but that's okay. That's the first flub he's made, and Kent would have done far worse. And you should listen to my raw audio when I record, like, a recorded video. This guy's doing better than I normally do. So you know what? Not a whole lot of shade to throw at him for his reading skills. He's doing better at reading out loud than I usually do.
Of generations, members of the population are therefore more likely to be replaced by the offspring of their parents with favourable characteristics for that environment. In the early 20th century, competing ideas of evolution were refuted, and evolution was combined with Mendelian inheritance and population genetics to devise the modern evolutionary theory. Remember what a theory is: unprovable. Unprovable, they're not facts. In this synthesis...
That's actually closer to the opposite. No. So let's take a drink and we'll go over what a theory is real quick. So,
it doesn't mean guess.
It does not. In common parlance, if you're like, oh, I have this theory, then yeah, it more or less means I have this idea, this guess. However, what a theory is in science, it is a well-supported framework that unifies otherwise disparate sets of data into a particular whole that you can use to then not only explain all of these disparate data using the same underlying system of, thought, I guess, but it also allows you to predict future data successfully within all those different areas. So, for instance, evolution helps us predict with the same mechanism things like how animals will react to climate change, where to find certain kinds of fossils, how to treat certain kinds of infectious diseases. All of these things are unified under evolution, whereas otherwise they would just be separate things that would be very hard to predict or explain. And in order to become a theory, an idea has to pass rigorous testing for often decades until it is widely accepted. And yes, as he was going, I was in fact speeding up the audio while he was just reading from Wikipedia, because it's just reading from Wikipedia. Roasting a Keller for $1.99 says, it could be bunnies. It could be bunnies. Bunnies are also explained by evolution, by the way.
The basis for hereditary is in DNA molecules that pass information from generation to generation. The processes that change DNA in a population include natural selection, genetic drift, mutation, and gene flow.
This is the world.
All life on Earth, including humanity,
Yeah.
There's at least universal common ancestor. Yeah, the common ancestor is God, because he's the only one that created us.
Take a drink.
Well, that's a new one.
God's my great-granddaddy. That's like some Michael Brown's type stuff right there. It's not the Holy Grail, it's the royal blood. Okay.
I mean,
because of
look,
our French
if you
pun.
want to be hyper literal, the genealogy in Matthew, I think it is, says, son of Seth, son of Adam, son of God.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess.
Maybe he's trying to make a case that all humans are children of God in a biological sense, which that might be a little bit more anthropomorphism than most Christians are comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that, like, the authors of Genesis would be like, God is the father of Adam in the same way that, like, I'm the father of my son. I think even they would be like, well, it's a little bit more metaphorical than that.
I don't know, man. This is probably a question for either Dan McClellan or Dr. Francesca Stavropoulou, because they have a better understanding of, like, early anthropomorphic God concepts.
Well, yeah, but also, I mean, Genesis 1 and 2 were written after the earliest strata of, like, Adonai worship in Israel. So, like, even if we go with, like, God and anatomy, where we have God showing up in pictures with a just gigantic member down between his knees, that's not the stratum where we are when we're talking about the authorship of Genesis. Yeah. So, like, it's complicated.
Well, and it's like, which part of Genesis?
Yeah, there's that too, right? Yeah. That's one of the things about, like, talking about religious history and the actual composition of the books of the Torah is it turns out it's pretty complicated, unless it's Deuteronomy, in which case it's a bit simpler, because King Josiah hired a scribe and was like, hey, make up some laws for me.
Check out what I just found.
Yeah. This conveniently centers the entire country's cultic devotion into my city, where I can charge them taxes. Isn't that amazing that that's what God wanted? It's like, yeah, it sure is, Josiah. Good for you.
And Josiah was like, "Argh!"
Oh no, we've been neglecting my rightful political and religious authority as the person in charge in Jerusalem.
That's so funny, because that's one of the chapters that I just finished reading in Richard Elliott Friedman's book about who wrote the Bible. And I literally imagined him being like, hey, maybe you find an old scroll of the law in the records somewhere, and
we'll dunk it in coffee to make it
haven't read it for a while, and
maybe it says the only proper place to worship is here in Jerusalem at the temple.
Yeah.
Everyone has to come here for all the sacrifices, and they have to get money here. We will definitely set a nominal tax for all that services that we're providing. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. For $10, Vandalia 1998 says, if anyone is interested in cosmology, Landon Knoll, who is a genius, and Tapioca Weasel, who is also an extremely smart person, although he doesn't have as many world records as Landon Knoll does, so, like, get on it, buddy. We'll be pulling a Namek, I'm not really sure what that means, and spending 2+ hours talking about the first second of the Big Bang in 3 hours over on my channel. There you go.
Well, that's an example of time dilation if I've ever heard of it.
Yeah, well,
3 hours to talk about 1 second.
I made the joke that, like, by the time they get to, like, the first week after the Big Bang, like, all of us will be dead.
Which lived approximately 3.5 to 3.8 billion years ago. The fossil record includes a progression from early biogenetic graphite to microbial mat fossils. To fossilize multicellular organisms, existing patterns of biodiversity have been shaped by repeated formations of new species, changes within species, and loss of species. Throughout the evolutionary history of life on Earth, morphological and biochemical traits tend to be more similar among species that share more recent common ancestor, which is something used to...
Yeah, that's actually a really important point that, like, I know about, and most people who accept evolution know about, is, like, it's not just in, like, your gross morphology, right, that you're more similar. Like, sure, the closest thing to a human morphologically is a chimp or a bonobo, but that's also the case in terms of your biochemistry. Like, when a veterinarian at a zoo needs a blood transfusion for a chimpanzee, they can go to human blood banks. Humans and chimps can have blood transfusions between each other. Now, you're almost certainly never going to have a human...
Oh, no, that's an evil satanic chimera. That's Nephilim technology. That's hybrids.
I wonder... So from what my understanding... Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I've never been a Jehovah's Witness, but my understanding is that the Jehovah's Witness prohibition against blood transfusion is less because of the whole, like, the life is in the blood and don't eat the blood rule, because they don't follow the dietary rules generally, but rather they see it as a form of cannibalism or something. So would Jehovah's Witnesses be okay with getting a blood transfusion?
Because the commandment is to not eat blood, and you're like, but how do you eat, like what? Yeah, they consider ingesting that or putting it in your body to be
eating it
verboten.
So they probably wouldn't be okay with a blood transfusion if you're getting the blood from a chimp?
Absolutely not.
Darn it.
Yeah.
It's not very often that I advocate...
If you really want, I can check with my cousin, who I think is still a active member of the JWs, but I don't know if he's super into the theology side. I have a very weird family.
Apparently. Grunewald Gurnison, who's been a member for 4 months, says the Namek thing is referring to how in Dragon Ball Z it took five 20-minute episodes for 5 minutes to pass when Frieza was blowing up the planet. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I have not seen Dragon Ball Z.
Goku be powering up for like 6 episodes straight.
That sounds really boring.
It's actually cool as hell.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Polygenetic trees or their direct comparison of genetic sequences is a more common method today. Evolutionary biologists have continued to study various aspects of evolution by forming and testing hypotheses, lies, as well as constructing theories.
Dude,
I could just read stuff and put lies in the middle. I'm reading this thing. Lies.
I'm gonna take a quick drink here.
Weird. I don't like it, so it's a lie.
You could just go look up experiments in evolution and just do one yourself, right? Like fruit fly experiments.
Why would he do that? That should be things other people do for him.
They did.
He gets to tell people.
They did do it for him, and then he just called it a lie. That's the thing. So if it's a lie when other people do it, Dean, my guy, go get yourself some big old fish tanks. Get some, thin wire mesh for the top. Fruit flies are really easy to get. Here's a hint. Leave some fruit out. Trust me, fruit flies will show up. Catch a bunch. Put them in a tank. Wait wait like a year or so that they, keep feeding them in there. Wait a year or so. Then separate them out into 2 tanks and give them different kinds of food. Wait a couple more years and then see if they can still interbreed. You know what? They won't be able to. Boom! You just did your own evolution experiment. It's really not that hard to do. Fruit flies are free, my guy.
They're the same kind.
Yeah, it is true that all that will happen is that he will just misunderstand evolution, probably intentionally so. But yeah, if you want to do an evolution experiment at home, you can. You can just do it. Literally no one can stop you. Which is the same thing I said to the flat earther that I had on with Jackson Wheat that we were actually talking to, live. I was like, no one's stopping. You just go do it. Why haven't you done this? It's well, it would be expensive. Okay, yeah, but you're talking about, overturning one of the most fundamental aspects of human knowledge that we've gained in the last 2,500 years. I feel like that might be kind of important if you're right about it. And if you are right, you'll get plenty of money. Just go do it. And in many cases, the just go do it that I was talking about was just go check to see if this is a thing online. You can just Google this. Well, I didn't get around to it. Okay, sure.
That requires effort and doesn't fit with my predetermined conclusions, so no.
Team Smolsky says Jehovah's Witnesses might show up too. Please don't mix them with fruit fly. Yeah, don't do that. Although, it's weird because the Jehovah's Witnesses has still not been back ever since over a year ago. I told them to come back with, what their argument was for the book of Daniel.
Early composition of Daniel?
Yeah, just come back with that early composition of Daniel evidence, and then we'll keep talking.
Did you watch Kip Davis's stream about that yesterday?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's... They actually went away saying, well, we're really good at research, so I don't think that'll be a problem. Great! Because here's the thing, right?
You know what? Maybe they're doing really, really high IQ research.
Maybe.
They have so many tabs open.
Just a billion tabs. They need 2 whole computers to hit that many tabs. Especially since it's Chrome tabs, and those are expensive.
Is there a better gobbler of RAM? The answer is no.
Yeah. Bitcoin mining, maybe, if you wanted to try to do it on your CPU. That might be worse.
Do that.
Oh, you would lose so much money.
Lies, based on evidence from the field of biology and on data generated by the methods of mathematical and theoretical biology. More lies.
just say things are lies in an argument, dude. You need to actually have a reason.
I know that he said more lies, but the speed and his vowel pronunciation immediately hit my ears as Morlocks, and I'm like, what do Morlocks have to do with
He's just a big H.G. Wells fan. It's okay.
Or maybe he likes the new X-Men 97 cartoon that's going to be coming out.
There you go.
No.
I will say, it was interesting to see Beast in an MCU movie. It's pretty interesting. Although it wasn't Kelsey Grammer. Oh, did you not know about this?
Wow, thanks.
Sorry, it was all over Twitter a couple days ago. I figured you would have seen it.
I have managed to avoid very many spoilers about things, and wow. Okay, cool, great. I guess Beast is in the MCU now. Cool, thanks. Appreciate that.
Sorry. I mean, you knew the X-Men were coming. There's an X-Men movie in development right now.
There's a Deadpool movie coming out.
Yeah, with Wolverine in it.
And Pyro.
Schools of influence not just the development of biology, but also the fields including agriculture, medicine, and computer science. What that's got to do with this, I don't know. So,
what has got to do with it? Take a drink. I can't with this guy. He just shouts incoherently at the camera as if it's some kind of argument, which, to be fair, is also some of what some young Earth creationists do. Okay, there's the drink. So,
fearmonger bro at all saying at you. Boo!
To be fair, it was spoiled for me too. I didn't find out by watching the movie.
Does it make it okay? Okay,
Sorry.
For the whole chat and Dapper, I have not yet seen The Marvels, Quantumania, Loki Season 2.
Jeez.
And those are the big ones. If you spoil the Miss Marvel TV show, I won't be like angry, but I'll be a little frustrated.
So you haven't seen Miss Marvel either?
I had a lot of stuff to... Yeah, I've had a lot to catch up on.
Do we have to start after we finish with True Detectives? Do we have to starting on the MCU shows? Is that what needs to happen?
I mean, I'm gonna watch them. I'm just, I'm really behind, and
I'll just start bugging you.
My motivation to just sit and watch a whole TV show has been really low lately.
It won't be a whole TV show.
I made it through What If, but that was because those episodes are really short.
Yeah,
and also Doctor Strange.
All right. So what computer science has to do with it is this thing called a genetic algorithm. Genetic algorithms are really cool because they use the concepts of mutation and selection to generate computer programs that can do useful things or just really neat things, right? You set up a neural net and you have randomized connections based on a pseudo-genetic code. And then you have that neural net control some computer function. And the versions of the neural net that do the best job at performing whatever function it is get separated out. Then you mutate those by just inserting random changes to the code. Actual random changes. The kind of thing that Ken Tobin says will never work. Then you
This
run
is
them
not
again.
related. I don't care. I'm going to interrupt you because someone just said that Guardians 3 was the best. Was it Guardians 3 the only good contribution to Phase 5? Excuse you. Multiverse of Madness exists, and that movie went so hard. So.
Although that third eye effect at the end was terrible.
You know why it looks like garbage, right? Because they weren't originally going to have that be the effect of being near the Darkhold. And it just, at the literal last minute, they were like, no, we're changing it to a third eye. And the VFX guys were like, oh. So.
Well, it was a bad call. Because it looked awful.
To be fair, it doesn't look great in the comics either. But it's cool. Third eyes are cool.
Third eyes are cool as a concept, but this execution was. But then again, we did get a fun time with totally not Ash. So that was fun. So anyway, yeah, genetic algorithms. You can actually just find YouTube videos.
I do want pizza balls though.
Yeah,
they sound delicious.
I think Binging with Babish made some pizza balls from the Multiverse of Madness. Yeah. It took a few different experiments, but he did finally make a pizza ball that was pizza-y and ball-shaped.
It's so funny, Fearmonger says that Multiverse of Madness was ass and had good moments, but it wasn't good overall. I actually have the opposite take, that it was mostly good with some really garbage moments. But, it's hard for me to hate on a movie that literally gave me 4 or 5 different Doctor Stranges in the course of 2 hours.
Yeah, including a zombie one.
Tumbling through the multiverse also was really hella cool, and the cinematography was amazing. So
were we paint?
Also, were we paint exactly? And also Rentra.
Yeah, Rentra
I will
wasn't it.
fight someone for my cow son. I don't care.
Wouldn't he be a bull son?
I mean, they didn't show his lower parts. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, but it's a he, so
that doesn't mean anything.
We also would have seen an udder.
Rentra is an alien species, so I'm not going to go there. But
sure,
yeah. I love him.
So yeah, genetic algorithms. You can find YouTube videos of people using genetic algorithms to do various tasks in computing. And the cool thing about genetic algorithms is that when you're done training a genetic algorithm, that neural net that you get as a result is usually not comprehensible by humans. You just see a mess of connections, and you could slowly follow it through to figure out what exact output you're going to get from given inputs. But generally speaking, you can't really comprehend how it works. But it works anyway. Kind of like how biology works. Where it's like, we still don't really know how it all comes together. We know how parts of it work. Yeah. It's almost like you can create things that are so complex that humans can't really understand them just through mutation and selection.
Some of the applications. The origin of life. Evolutionary history of life. The Earth is about 4.4 billion years old. The earliest disputed evidence of life on Earth dates to at least 3.5 billion years ago. During the Erusian era, after the geological crust started to solidify.
Erusian era. I don't think that's a thing.
Following the earlier molten Hadean eon, microbial map fossils have been found in 3.48 billion year old sandstone in Western Australia. Other early physical evidence of a biogenetic substance is graphite in 3.7 billion year old.
Is the rest of this video just him reading Wikipedia and randomly shouting lies or Freemasons throughout the
Oh, here, he's going to talk about the Pope of Science.
Reading Wikipedia.
From a process he called natural selection, in which the struggle for existence has a similar effect to the artificial selection involved in selective breeding. Darwin has been described as one of the biggest, most influential liars in human history.
I do not think that's what it says.
Was honoured by burial in Westminster Abbey. Now, you've got to be he was honoured for his lies by the Freemasons and put into Westminster Abbey. Darwin's early...
Okay, look,
what does that have to do with the price of fish?
I've never been to England, but I know I have people in the UK in my audience. UK people, is it like a well-known fact that Westminster Abbey is in fact owned by the Freemasons and not, say, the Church of England? Because last I checked, it was a church. It was owned by the Church of England.
That's the Church of England, but
yeah, but I mean, like, you know, the church that has, you know, Chuck as its King Chuck as its head of the church, I guess. I was gonna say head of state, but it's not a state, so like, yeah. Although the idea that the king is the head of the Church of England versus like the Archbishop of Canterbury, like the Archbishop of Canterbury is actually the guy who's making most of the calls about like ecclesiastical stuff. So like, in what way is King Charles actually the head of the Church of England? You know. But yeah. So does anyone know? Tag me if you happen to know that the Westminster Abbey is in fact owned by the Freemasons and not Church of England, which is what I would expect. Horseflesh just got here, no idea what I've walked into. Oh, don't worry. It's nonsense. I mean, it's always nonsense, right? Mr. Cliff says, I never voted for Charles.
I never voted for Charles.
Well, hey, good news. He probably won't be the king for much longer because he's decided to treat his cancer with herbs and homeopathy. Oh,
hey, maybe the water remembers how to treat cancer. Good luck with that.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe Christopher Eccleston has spit in the water and it remembers his anti-monarchy sentiments, and it's now King Charles is screwed. Also a possibility. I knew that would get you.
You know what? If Christopher Eccleston ever comes back to Dragon Con, I'm just gonna give him a high five for that.
Just for the joke I told about him.
For the joke that you told, because I know that he'll appreciate it.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
He's a very cool guy. He's very, very, very tall. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, TD Lane has it all figured out. TD Lane being an expert in the Church of England. Well, Dapper, you see, the Church of England is a Freemason cult run by the goblins who also have a big bank for wizards with 6-pointed star on the floor.
Yes.
Oh.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Hmm.
How could we have missed it?
Yep. And who also have big, prominent, hooky noses. You know, because that's a thing.
Interest in nature led him to neglect his medical education at the University of Edinburgh. Instead, he helped to investigate marine invertebrates. He studied at the University of Cambridge.
That's true, actually. He was one of the ones who first recognized that barnacles were crustaceans and not mollusks, because up until then, everyone had considered barnacles to be mollusks, because you look at a barnacle and you're like, it kind of looks like a weird clam. And then he investigated like their life cycle, and he was like, they have naupliar larvae. That's only a crustacean thing. Guys, these are crustaceans. And at
everything is crab.
Well, at first everyone was like, come on, Chuck. Crustaceans? You think this is more like a crab than it is like a clam? And he was like, yeah, look at what happens when they spawn. And then people did, and they were like, well, damn. I guess you're right, Chuck. And yeah, he's a big part of the reason that we know that they're crustaceans.
Oh, God. That's dark. I'm sorry. Dr. Don Hogg in the chat says, what if the water remembered how to grow tumors?
Jeez.
Grim.
A madman says, we transfer the deeds to the Freemasons after we buried King Charles. The king was then replaced with CG. Everyone is happy with the results. That reminds me, my upcoming Jackson with Jackson is a picture of Charles Jackson with his face photoshopped over King Charles at his coronation. That's called King Charles the First of Stupid. I'm just like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's no way I'm not making fun of this ridiculous institution. Sorry, England.
But I mean, hey, look, the seems like the trend of Charles is not being king for very long might actually hold true. So good job.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's tradition. So you don't want to break with tradition. If there's one thing the monarchy is all about, it's keeping with tradition, which means Charles can't last that much longer. Not allowed. Nope. Savage Perpetual Motion Lungs Cobra for $2 says barnacles are sedentary crabs. I mean, not technically, but yeah, basically. So yeah. And look, here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of the British monarchy, but I don't actually care that much that I would normally be like making fun of the imminent death of one of them. But here's the thing. In addition to just being, part of an institution I'm not a big fan of, that guy has been spreading medical misinformation and promoting crank medical practices across the entire country for decades.
Yeah.
And screw that guy. Not a fan.
Alex Markel is asking you, Dapper, why are you dead naming Turf Island?
Same reason I dead named Twitter.
Jesus Christ College from 1828 to 1831 encouraged his passion for natural science. His 5-year voyage on HMS Beagle from 1831 to 1836, paid for by the Freemasons.
5-year voyage.
Paid for by the Freemasons. I'm going to take a drink. Look, the funding for the Beagle isn't like a mystery, and Charles Darwin wasn't paid to be there. The only extra expense that it cost the ship was the extra provisions that they had to take on to feed him. And they were on an exploratory mission for whom? The crown. So unless you're just going to argue that the entire...
Freemasons.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know what? Maybe he's one of those people who are like, yeah, the British monarchy, they're actually like lizard people. And look, I've made that joke too. In fact, in one of my videos, when I was mentioning animals that managed to survive the KPG, one of the animal groups I mentioned was lizards. And yes, I put a picture of King Charles up. That is a thing I did. But I don't actually think that they're a bunch of lizard people, right? I made the same joke about Hillary Clinton, who I'm also not a huge fan of. I mean, for one thing, she lost a presidential election to Donald Trump. I mean, come on.
Real issue.
But yeah, I don't actually think that either the Clintons or the monarchy of England are a bunch of lizard people.
Oh, this is too funny.
Pillowpunk, half dog, half canine for $2 says, new channel war, sessile versus pelagic crustaceans. Actually, in this case, I'm a big fan of benthic crustaceans. Not sessile or pelagic. Benthic is the way to go with crustaceans.
Man, the lore for this channel is so deep.
Well, part of it is that you bring in all sorts of deep cuts.
That's why you invite me on!
It's true. You're the only one of my guests who's going to like make a deep cut to like the hundreds level SCP articles.
Established Darwin as an imminent geologist whose observations and theories supported Charles Lyell's concept of gradual geological change. Publication of his Journal of the Voyage.
Now that's an interesting thing. What do flat earthers think of geology? Because I've never heard them really address it, right? Like, they'll talk about the fact that mountains and valleys exist, especially when there's like, well, I'm a bumpy earther, I'm not a flat earther. Like, okay, sure. But like, do they have like an idea about like the rock cycle, plate tectonics? Like, how does any of that work? I have no idea. I mean, obviously, but like, what do they think is happening? Also, Fate to Grey just gifted a membership, and it went to someone named Pelagic Thought with a thorn for the TH in thought, which is quite frankly amazing. And
that is amazing.
I love that, and I'm going to take a drink for it.
Cognitive trifurcation is saying the lore extends past the KPG.
It does, actually. That's true.
Does.
I was hatched in the Jurassic, as is proper for a... Oh, I'm sorry. We were talking about the Church of England. As is meet and right for a Ceratosaurus.
There you go.
Yeah, we have to, we have to break out our books of common prayer and read from that on this stream, because this is all involved with the Church of England. And so I would not want to misuse the language that the Book of Common Prayer, which came down from God, that's not true, that's not even what the Church of England said, but that he then bestowed upon his one true Church of England, which is also, again, not what the Church of England says it is. I am intentionally strawmanning the Church of England. Sorry, Church of England. My dad's Anglican.
Made Darwin famous as a popular author, and this shit was pushed out to all the universities and started being teach this fact. That's how they do it, to change the consensus of opinion.
Yes, it is how they change the consensus of opinion. They come up with new evidence. I love how the flat earthers how dare they change science? Which again, like I said, remember what the point of me having a flat earther on this was to show the connections between young Earth and flat Earth thought processes. And that's the same thought process that we see all the time with young Earth creationists. Is how dare they change their scientific conclusions? Welcome to the scientific method. How dare
this company send me a yellow mug when I ordered a yellow mug?
Yeah, it's exactly what you want them to.
The audacity.
I'm taking a drink for that, by the way. There's also... So I did skip around a little bit. There was one bit I wanted to get to.
Actually, it was my sister that sent me this because I specifically asked for a yellow mug, so shout out if she's still in the chat.
Maybe I'm just not going to get there because I don't know where it was. But there was one part when I was skipping around this to see if I even wanted to bother. There was a bit where...
He's just reading Wikipedia! Why?
This is some kind of slideshow.
And also, a lot of that, he's just reading Wikipedia, I also don't want to see him read slides.
I'll show you in the next bit. Transmutation of species. Darwin chose to marry his cousin.
Here we go.
Really?
Yeah, really. It was.
Most people were marrying cousins. What's your point?
Yeah, it was pretty common at the time. It's if your culture is a culture that only occasionally has first cousin marriages, and you engage in one of those occasional first cousin marriages, it's actually not going to be that big of a deal. I'm not encouraging it, but it's only in places where cousin marriages are preferred and standard that this becomes a problem over time. So yeah, unless your family already has a long history of inbreeding, if you have kids with your first cousin, the chances are only marginally higher of genetic problems in your children. Barely measurably higher. Now, if your family does have a long history of inbreeding, well, then that's just going to be exacerbating it. And you probably shouldn't have a kid with your cousin if your family is already inbred. You should go for an outcrossing. Go find someone out in the world if you want to have kids. Don't
yeah, Harga.
Don't keep the bloodlines pure. That's not how bloodlines work.
Darwin in 1842 was his son.
Miss my midsummer
Darwin sandwalked at Darwin House in Denver.
I'm actually surprised that he didn't comment about the fact that Darwin and his son his son was pictured in a dress, because normally they're really angry about any kind of gender things, and they probably don't know that at the time, basically until puberty, it was common to just dress all kids in dresses. For one thing, you don't have to replace them as often when the kids grow.
There are pictures of, I think it's FDR when he was a kid. He's in what we would call a dress, but it's just easy. It's like the tunic.
Look, here's the thing about dresses.
And they would
kids.
have longer hair.
Yeah. The thing about dresses for kids is you don't have to replace a dress as often as you have to replace a pair of trousers for your growing boy. He can wear that dress for 3 or 4 years, possibly, if it's big enough when you first put it on him. So yeah, it's actually a weird sign of conspicuous consumption or something to put your little boys in pants that they're going to grow out of at 6 months.
His usual thinking pattern could come up with more lies. Darwin age 46 in 1855. During the Darwin family's 1868 holiday,
there's one of my cousins.
Oh, I love that picture. It's so stupid.
Oh my god, yeah, the Darwin and the ape body.
It's really ironic because Darwin already has an ape body.
Yeah.
Regular body.
Yeah.
The publication of The Descent of Man. By 1878, increasingly famous Darwin, increasingly famous because they were pushing him and pushing him and pushing his bullshit.
Who was this that was pushing him? Because it was basically just he and his friends being like, hey man, I wrote this book. I'm just gonna take a drink because it's just incomprehensible to him that anything that he doesn't like might just become popular because it actually has some merit to it. Not possible. There's one specific bit I want to get to before we get out of here and we watch Power Rangers over on my Discord.
Okay.
I want to take you to this last bit here. Here he is, the adjoining tombs of scientist John Herschel, because he lied about the astrophysics and all that.
He lied about astrophysics and all that. Okay, sure, buddy.
and the Big Bang, and Charles Darwin in the nave of Westminster Abbey.
Johannes Herschel did not lie about the Big Bang, my guy. Look at the date there. AD MDCCC, so that's 1,500, then 3 more hundreds, so that's 18. Then we get to an L50, 2 X's, so that's 71. 1871. The Big Bang wasn't proposed...
When was the Big Bang first proposed?
The 20th century.
Huh.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, it wasn't until well into the 20th century that the Big Bang was proposed. So I'm going to take another drink for Herschel.
Okay.
Was telling people about the Big Bang over 100 years before it was even proposed. Well, no, under 100 years, sorry. But still decades before it was proposed. Pillowpunk, half dog, half canine for $5 says, gee, it's almost like gendered cultural norms are arbitrary or something. Yeah, by and large.
How about that?
They are. They do tend to be. There are some commonalities that are cross-cultural that probably are not entirely arbitrary, but still. Wearing
Dapper,
dresses versus pants is not one of them.
I had somebody who was also a musician at a Southern Baptist church where I was employed, telling me that he was against people wearing shorts to church because it was disrespectful because, God doesn't want people to wear shorts at church. And he got real upset when I reminded him that priests wore shorts. Yeah. He didn't like that.
What, like under the robe?
Yeah, like just not the high priests, but just priests. Like they have shorts that are prescribed for them to wear when they're doing some official duties, and he didn't like that.
I mean, look, I'm gonna go with I do think it's okay for a community to prescribe their own dress code for their own ritual observances. And that's okay. I don't mind it necessarily. But if you're gonna get upset because someone disagrees with what that should be, that's kind of silly.
Well, it was that he didn't like the fact that he couldn't justify it because his statement was God doesn't like that, and I'm like, well,
that's going a bit.
What
far.
about this? And that's
that was
when I was like, oh,
I was once asked at a church not to wear shorts, and what I said was okay, and then I just didn't wear shorts. Yep. I wasn't told it is a sin for you to wear shorts here. I was told, hey, we generally don't want people to wear shorts. I was like, all right, cool. And then I just didn't.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Funny, right?
No one was like, oh, if you wear shorts, we're gonna send you to hell. That didn't happen. By the way, guys, I've been to a lot of churches in my time. In case you guys are wondering. I've been to a lot of many things in my time. Yep. In fact, actually, one of my school assignments in college in my comparative religion classes was to go to a religious service for a religion that either was not my own or was one that I had never belonged to and didn't grow up with in case I didn't have a religious affiliation. And so I took the easy way out and I went to the Friday prayers at the classroom in the nearby campus building that was being held by the Muslim students. Because it didn't require me to even drive anywhere. I could walk to that building. And so I showed up and I spent a whole lot of time in that paper that I wrote talking about the differences in the uses of Arabic in that setting versus in the church, in the choir that I had sung in, which was also an Arab church. And yeah, apparently my professor had never encountered someone who spent so much time talking about the differences in the use of foreign languages in two different types of religious service. And they're like, this is a very unusual paper. I'm like, well, I'm taking Arabic, so, I'm like, all right, I guess that makes sense. It was a good paper, though. I'm like, oh, thanks.
Freemasons put him to honour them. And there's a statue of Darwin. Emma Darwin with Charles Waring Darwin. This one here. In 1851, Darwin was devastated when his daughter Anne died. By then, his faith in Christianity had dwindled and he had stopped going to church. Why? Because he became a high-ranking Freemason and became a Satanist.
That's the part that I wanted to talk about. Okay, so let's take a drink and we're going to talk about Darwin being a Satanist. Okay, so first of all,
wow,
Darwin was never what most Christians would consider to be within the mainstream of Christianity, right? While he did go to a Church of England school, and there was talk about him becoming a parson in the Church of England, which is to say becoming a member of the clergy, a priest in the Church of England. He was a non-Trinitarian. His mom was a Unitarian. While he was a Christian, was mostly a Unitarian, and even then within that group, which was already sort of diverse in terms of the things that they were thinking about theology. Darwin was even then sort of like on the outskirts of that. And he was never particularly religious. And everything that we have about him indicates that he just kind of wandered away from going to church. He just kind of went less and less and then just kind of stopped, which happens to a lot of people who don't become Masons or Satanists. Yeah. And it was, in fact, the death of his daughter that finally broke what remaining belief in God he had, because he decided that there was no way that there could be a loving God and who would take away his daughter in such a horrible way and leave his family broken in this way. And that was it. That was it for him. Now, here's the thing, right? If you think that's not a good reason to abandon your belief in God, great. I'm not going to tell you either way. I'm not going to comment on the appropriateness of him losing his faith over the fact. But the fact is that he then became, at best, an agnostic and more likely probably an atheist. You know what agnostic and atheists tend not to do? Is actually believe in the real existence of a character named Satan.
Incredible.
It's really, really rare that you find an atheist who believes in the actual existence of Satan.
Funny, right?
Yeah. Also, Freemasons don't worship Satan. Now, they do have... Here's the thing, right? There are theological statements that go along with Freemason rituals. Very few Freemasons actually believe in the literal truth of any of those stories that they tell in those, right? Because, again, the Freemasons are basically a men's drinking club that dresses the whole event up in like religious paraphernalia. But that's in large part just because humans like ritual. Ritual is cool, right? Like there's a reason why, like, say, Vishanti, you know this. There's a lot of Jews who have absolutely no belief in the supernatural who still show up for like every Saturday or Friday evening, if you're doing a Friday evening thing, and who show up for all the high holy days and all of that stuff, right? They're right. That's because ritual it's a good thing for a lot of people. It helps you contextualize the parts of your, like the year, as well as life events, like coming of age ceremonies, marriages, funerals, all of these things. It helps you put you into a context that's bigger than yourself. And it helps.
It's a great way to connect with community, and it is a great way to pass along your cultural heritage.
And it turns out that just having rituals and a community doesn't require any particular belief. And most Freemasons don't have any particular belief in any of the stuff that goes on in the ritualistic parts of Freemason meetings. Because,
you know, shockingly, there are things that are just symbolic.
Which is one of the reasons why I do think it's a little silly that the Catholic and Orthodox churches are like, no, don't be a Mason. It's like, you guys know it's mostly just drinking with stuff that no one believes in, right? And the answer is no, they apparently don't know that, I guess. Oh, Mothra came by. We're going to take a drink from Mothra. Hi, Mothra.
I love her.
So that was the bit I wanted to get to, was the absurdity of Dean yelling at us that Darwin was a Freemason because his daughter died and that therefore he believed in Satan. Which is absolutely crazy. But Vendeli 1998 for $2 says, Saturday afternoon, Dapper watching ritual. Yes, this is in fact what is happening. This is basically your version of church or synagogue or mosque or temple or whatever you want to call it. I'm kidding. I'm not your religious leader. Please don't look at that. I am not in charge of your religious life. I don't want to be. I'm just a dinosaur on the internet. But anyway, with that, let's take a look at what's coming up. Vishanti, do you have anything you want to tell people about?
Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to be speaking at CSU Long Beach, discussing anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism.
Is there a link where people can watch online? I'm not officially
a member of JVP, but we're going to make an attempt to record it. There was it's like a panel that I gave a couple weeks ago with a colleague of mine on a similar topic that was recorded. We're just waiting for the editor to give us the link so that I can...
Right. Is it going to be streamed anywhere, or is that something people are going to have to wait to get a hold of?
For tomorrow, that's one of the things that we're still working on.
Okay.
So if I find out one way or the other, I'll update my community tab.
Okay, cool. If you do, please let me know so I can also share that community post. So, hey guys, stay tuned for a community post from me or Vishanti, or both. Well, I mean, both, really, both. And yeah. So that sounds pretty cool. Let's take a look at what's coming up on this channel. So, on Tuesday, the plan is Matt with Maddie 24, I believe, climbing Mount Stupid with Maddie. We'll be back after a quick 1 week hiatus.
Excellent.
Which, by the way, thank you very much, Vishanti, for filling in on that very short notice for Maddie. I really do appreciate it.
No worries.
Then on Thursday, so that is going to be Thursday the 22nd, we have the final episode of the Incoherent Shouty Moron series with David Gottlieb, which is Why Are Whales? Because for some reason, I have like 4 videos on my channel that are just about creationists utterly failing to understand cetaceans, like at all. I don't get why whales are so confusing to them.
I don't know. I don't know.
They all just get to whale, and they're like, their brains just melt out of their ears. Whatever.
What do you mean it looks like a fish, but it's a mammal?
Philip Cap Dog Half K9 says, looking forward to some creation taking that out of context. Look, nothing that a creationist responds to me with will ever beat the time that Faithful, Honest, and True decided to speculate about my sexual orientation while coming up with an even gayer version of In the Navy. While also issuing a veiled death threat against me.
Ridiculous.
Which was just like, just a whirlwind of amazing nonsense. Hey, fun fact. My sexual orientation isn't something I plan on talking about on the channel, because it doesn't matter to anything else I talk about.
None of our business.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Plus, I'm a Ceratosaurus. You don't even know how that works with Ceratosaurus. So, yeah, you don't even know. Anyway, then on Saturday, so I am planning on doing a Dapper Reacts at the normal time, but then later on that day, we are going to have the Cambrian Bunny Award Show, where we actually find out who won the Cambrian Bunnies, and based on what I already saw, the Carter Sweep is not happening. So if you were a Carter Sweep enthusiast, sorry to disappoint, but despite being nominated in every category, last I checked, he was losing in every single category. So yeah, check that out. That should be later on at night. I do have to double check with the science friends and see who's happy to come back. If there's like another time that works better for like all of them that were on the panel, then yeah, I'll move it. But otherwise, yeah, it should be late on this next coming Saturday.
Alex Markel, it is for the artists who plan on drawing Rule 34 for you.
Look, here's the thing, right? If you want to draw Rule 34 of me, the Dapper Dinosaur, you go for it. I don't necessarily need you to send it to me. And I don't care who you put me in a scenario with. I just don't. You know what? Like, yeah.
This is one of those rules of fandom, is like you don't break the fourth wall. If you do like racy fan art of somebody, don't give it to them, please.
Yeah, like
unless
I said,
they specifically ask for it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily need you to send it to me, but like, make as much Rule 34 Dapper Dinosaur art as you want. I don't care. It's one of those things. I just don't. Some people are upset when people do Rule 34 art of them, even if they don't get it sent to them. I'm not one of those people. If you want to make your own Rule 34 Dapper content for you and your circle of friends who want to see it, I salute you. Have fun. Yeah. Then let's see. The other thing is then we're going to have a Jackson with Jackson a week after, like in 2 weeks. And then Batty Bodie's Dinosaur Delusions, the movie, is coming out. And that is a long one. So that is a 4-part series that's been turned into a supercut. So, yeah, it's already scheduled for premiere. That'll be on the 29th. Yeah. And also, March 25th is a significant day for Americans. And I don't know if I'm going to do anything about that. Probably not, but you never know. It is normally my day off, but I could just do a special stream to celebrate March 25th. And if you don't know what March 25th is, maybe look up March 25th trial, 45th president, a few things like that. Because it's currently the first scheduled trial of a criminal trial of a United States president ever. March 25th.
How about that?
Yep.
What's time to be alive?
Like 35 felony counts or something. He'll probably, if he serves any time in prison, it probably won't be much more than like 6 or 7 years. Jester, Lord of Fools for $5 says, looking forward to having a whole time watching them. Whale of a time. Yep. Looking forward to having a whale of a time watching them wail whilst we wail on their ideas. Ooh, very nice. All right, guys.
I love that.
We're going to get out of here. If you are interested, head over to the Discord channel. That's the Discord channel for supporters. We're going to be watching, I believe, the final bits of Power Rangers Wild Force, or it might be that we have one other day after this. I don't remember exactly, but it's very close to the end. And with that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful, safe rest of your weekend, and I will see all of you on Tuesday. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Benthoven, Phil Rivara, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Denny5252, Elron Teller, Horseflesh, Ian Chen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babbity, Monkey They Them, Robert Carpenter, Sphincter of Doom, Vollus, Eddie McCoy, Ita V, and Strawberry Vein. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.